Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night. It's WSSR Roasted Gym Cup Series racing action, prepared for Season 7. The regular season is finished and done. It's time for the playoffs. 16 drivers have entered for a chance for a championship. And tonight is the start of the journey as the first round of 16. We'll have 2 races tonight here at Talladega Auto Club next week. And then we figure out who will be in the round of 10. But first, who can survive tonight's course? 2.66 miles in length, and Talladega should be a good one as the drivers are set up for the hot lap threads. 250 here tonight at Talladega. It's going to be a good one. Excited for it, and welcome to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Joshua Altis, and Josh, should be a good one. Gen 4's big track, and the drivers, they sound a little bit nervous coming into tonight's race.
Oh man, Sam, what a way to start the playoffs. We had an awesome finish to the regular season last week at Charlotte with Larry Yingling getting the win. And man, I'll tell you what, Sam, you can't win the championship here, but you sure as heck can lose it.
Absolutely. Coming into the night, 16 drivers that made it into the playoffs. Going to be Ben Nelson, Shane Terry, and Brandon Colley, as well as Larry Yingling, going to be your top 4 drivers in the points. Then 5th in points is Douglas Newbigging. Ross Tatum going to be 6th in points. Cedric Hunter 7th. Ryan Kelly 8th. 9th's going to be John Force with Joshua Altis 10th in points. Those are the 10 drivers that enter with a very small buffer to work with, and the drivers that come into the playoffs with no bonus points at all are going to be outside looking in. Brian P. Johnson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, Brian Noel, Ken Campbell, and those 16 drivers that are racing against one another. It's just a 7-point difference from Ben Nelson all the way down to the drivers that are outside of our top 10 in points. It's going to be a tough battle if you have those mistakes, as we have over 30 drivers racing here tonight. The only bonus points you can grab, leading the lap, leading the most laps, winning the race. And there's not a lot of bonus points there. It's going to be a lot on positioning as the drivers set up for qualifying here this evening. If they have a total of 5 minutes to put down their fastest time and only 2 laps to do so. And Josh, drivers are just getting started for their first lap. What are you expecting here tonight? Because usually it looks like you've got drivers with the mentality of I want to be up front, while others thinking about going in the back.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Sam. I'm not really sure what to expect, but I think one thing that just comes to the forefront of mind is always the big one here at Talladega, and when's it going to happen? Now, you did inform me before we came on air, these drivers do have one fast repair to work with. So, you know, that allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, I think, than otherwise you normally would be. Because, you know, you've got that mulligan, so to say. So, you know, if I'm one of these drivers, you know, go be aggressive. You've got your lifeline, so to say, and you just kind of see what happens.
As lap times are clocking in, yeah, having the fast repair this season, the admins decided because of how unknown this Gen 4 car was going to be, we're going to enable these drivers to have a chance to race at the super speedways and short tracks, where drivers are given a fast repair for themselves. And at short tracks, it's enabled drivers get a little bit overzealous, bringing out a lot of cautions. Super speedway racing, though, on the other hand, at the start of this season at Daytona, 7 cautions in total, but it certainly was a great battle to watch at that track all the way back at the beginning of July, where Cedric Hunter found himself sneaking away with the win. Tonight, Talladega might be seeing a similar act of someone trying to sneak a win. I was watching practice. The drivers were even practicing not just 3 wide, as that's a comfortable way to race, but 4 wide, and we're going a couple of laps being 4 wide. Curious on if they're going to feel that confident once the race goes green.
Well, and another thing to think about, Sam, is, you know, I feel like this has kind of been a topic all year, is just how the front and back bumpers don't line up on these cars. And specifically when you think about super speedway racing, you know, you get a lot of pushing, a lot of shoving, momentum, you know, maybe okay for the straightaways, but, you know, this front bumper can really lift up the rear bumper of your competitor in front of you. So, you know, one bad bump, you know, it could be chaos tonight.
It certainly could be, as drivers are putting in their times. Thomas Walter having a little bit of fun in the grass as is done with qualifying for the 57. Going to be 5th on the board currently. Ken Campbell having the pole award at this moment with Nick Crawford, Larry Yingling, Christopher Wade, and Thomas Walter, as our regular season point champion, Shane Tarian, 25th on the board after his first lap, hoping to get a little bit further ahead potentially here as Douglas Newbigging on his second lap. Going to be the fastest driver with a 51.736. Shane Tarian from all the way down in 27th position up to 13th. And small little movements are happening currently as some of the last drivers to put down a time. Going to be Kyle Heath in the 31 machine. Going to be seeing how Kyle can try his opportunity here, as super speedway racing gives drivers a chance. Maybe you missed out the last couple of weeks or most of the season. Let's come out and put on a show at the track that is so large that anything could potentially happen here tonight. As qualifying is done, it's time for us to get ready for the racing action. Practice is over, qualifying is over. As the drivers grid up, it's time for us to take a look at our starting grid here tonight, sponsored by Colley's Mom. Brandon Colley's Mom's been sponsoring the qualifying results for the last couple of seasons. Always hoping to see Brandon Colley on top of the board. Well, tonight, not going to be in the top 10, but it will be Douglas Newbigging in the 7 machine. Going to be taking the top of the board. Ken Campbell 2nd, 3rd, Nick Crawford, Larry Yingling 4th, 5th is Christopher Wade with Thomas Walter in 6th. Cody Reed, last driver to get a pole here, going to be back in 7th position for the 52. Benjamin Nelson, driver with the most points because of the amount of wins that he grabbed, going to be starting in 8th with Joshua Canada 9th, and finishing out our top 10. The last driver to win here, Zach Hall in 10th place.
And starting just outside the top 10, Brian P. Johnson, a playoff driver, rolling off 11th. To his outside will be Ryan Kelly, another playoff driver, starting 12th. Shane Tyrion, our regular season points champion, will start 13th. Cedric Hunter also made the playoffs, starting 14th. Isaiah Sutherland will start 15th. Mason Cassidy 16th. Brandon Colley, also a playoff driver, will start 17th. Brad Delph will roll off 18th. Danny Cochran will start 19th. And to his outside, reigning out the top 20 will be Kyle Heath.
And then in 21st position, Christopher Norris in the 38 machine with John Forbes in 22nd. Ryan Noel in 23rd. Aaron Kralik back after his one-race suspension, potentially wrecking back at Dover. We'll see how the 01 wants to perform here tonight at 24th. 25th, Ollie Fonseca with Brian with an I. Johnson in the 08 in 26th. James Kaufman in 27th position. Chris Stitz in 28th. James Heater in 29th. That of Nolan Hicks in 30th, with Jonathan Cogswell 31st. 32nd will be Gregory Smith. Devin Brock back after missing a couple of weeks, finishing out 33 drivers expected to race here this evening as they start to pace tonight's race here at Talladega. Going to be 90 laps in total. There will be a competition caution at the end of lap 30 unless a caution happens before then, and there will be a one fast spare to work with here tonight, like we talked about earlier, to watch out for. Another thing we might see, but maybe not very often we talk about, these drivers do have 5 sets of tires in pit road to work with. Could be a factor that they might find themselves with here for themselves. So cannot wait to see how tonight's race is going to perform as the drivers are rolling through 1 and 2. Josh, I mean, we'll think back, I know you were up in the booth before the start of the season, but Gen 4s at super speedways, it's looking to be like the rear bumper, front bumper, we already know don't connect very well when you try to do a bump and run. But what are you expecting at this super speedway here tonight?
Yeah, I think it's going to be wild. You got a lot of drivers with different agendas. Obviously, we've got our playoff guys, and it'll be interesting to see who kind of goes on attack and who's more maybe defensively minded, just trying to survive. And then we got to remember, Sam, there's only 16 drivers in the playoffs, so every other driver out here, they really have nothing to lose, and they want to get up and they feel like they can win this race. So I think it's going to be a mix of strategies, and kind of to your point with the tires, handling does come into play here at these super speedways with these Gen 4 cars. So that could be something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of watch out through the tri-oval. That is a very touchy area. If you are letting off on the throttle, the rear end just wants to loosen up. The weight does not look well, and the drivers say it is a handful. So if you're seeing a lot of drivers on top of one another, someone has to back off during the tri-oval, could be seeing a big mess there. But the field is stacked up. We're ready to get rolling as the pace car enters pit road. You also saw it earlier. Danny Cochran, because he missed out on last week, does have an end-of-the-line penalty. He's got to serve, so the 2 will send himself to the end of the line. But the rest of the field already. Season 7 playoff action. Race 1 of 2 is underway for the Hot Lap Threads 250 as it's Newbiggie, Ken Campbell side by side. Everyone's roaring up, taking off, but drivers in the back, a little bit of smoke happening as some calamity. Devin Brock, James Heater, as well as Jonathan Coxwell having some big issues on the starting line. And just like that, already drivers finding themselves with some big issues.
Yeah, a couple of those drivers did not get off to a clean start, Sam, but we stayed green as we pick up the field going down the back stretch. It looks like Ken Campbell's got that run on the top.
And looking back, quick look at the action. Looked like James Kaufman brake checking. Drivers weren't expecting it, running into one another. And again, starts of these races have been tricky with the Gen 4, and it continues to show even here tonight. Up front, Ken Campbell, Larry Yingling going to be in line with Thomas Walter as well, as Douglas Newbiggie falls back to 4th place. But lap 1 going to Ken Campbell. Crucial lap for Ken. That's a bonus point. That's going to help him moving forward, leading a lap.
Ken Campbell picking up right where he left off last night, Sam. I know we promised we wouldn't talk about that race too much, but Ken Campbell coming out with the win last night, and he's leading the field now.
Hey, when you get momentum from a different race, it helps to carry it forward into the other leagues that you run. And currently it's doing a great job as the 3-time champ of Larry Yingling to the outside, making that middle groove look pretty sporty at this moment. Also going to be having Benjamin Nelson, Ken Campbell, Nick Crawford, Thomas Walter, all trying to figure out where do you want to jostle yourself at this time. As see the pink machine easily definable and pick out from the crowd. Cedric Hunter trying to woo some drivers to that 3rd lane.
Yeah, that 3rd lane can actually come into play as long as you have some help, and it looks like Christopher Norris ventured up there. Ryan Kelly was up there, but then just dropped back down to the middle. So he's got three drivers. I think you might need a little bit more help. Yeah, it looks like it's kind of dying out now, but that 3rd lane, we'll have to keep an eye on it, Sam. Like as we get later into the race, that could be a line to move forward.
Who's going to work with who here tonight? And no alliances. When you think about super speedways, you got teams that are willing to work with one another. Maybe instead of being in your own grouping of 4 drivers for your team, you might group up with 1 or 2 other groups to make sure you got a bigger alliance to have more teamwork to try to help a driver get into victory lane or give the best chance for yourself. And looking to be like seeing the drivers from Sidewinder Motorsports as well for Snowy Desert Racing teaming up, trying to work as one, and that's what we're seeing with this middle pack of drivers in line showing their speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Alliances are huge at super speedway, Sam, because especially when you start talking about pitting, right? So if we have the opportunity to pit under green, that's where you try to get everybody lined up, and it's going to come down to who can hit their marks well, get on and off pit road. That could really be the difference in separating yourself out.
Well, if you were watching ISRC Truck Series, their season began, their playoffs began at Talladega. Thought we were going to have some deja vu with lap traffic closing in on 3 wide action up front. Instead, James Heater enters pit road. And for James, this is not the way that he wanted to see 18's day start out. Caught up with that early incident on the initial start of the race and has been caught up with a black flag every time he leaves pit road. And the 18 machine will be back in pit road, serving a 40-second penalty. Tough night for himself as we're 3 wide, seeing who's going to lead up front with the grouping being led by Ben Nelson in the middle, Cedric Hunter on the outside, and Larry Yingling on the bottom. And that handling, starting to already see a little bit of shuffling on drivers feeling the shimmy through the center of the corner.
Yeah, and that's just going to get worse, Sam. As time goes on, as the run goes on, drivers are going to start losing a little bit of grip. And you alluded to that tri-oval, right? It's a really fast part of the track. You got a little bit of a turn right there, and that's where the handling could get really sketchy for these guys.
As the field up front, on top that of 15 drivers, all within a second of one another, side by side. 3 by 3, 4 rows deep. as the group just continues to show who's got the true power. And when we talk about drafting, I'm going to be saying that a lot here tonight. That's when drivers are in line with one another. The closer that you are to the driver in front of you allows you to get a little more speed, but puts the driver that's on the back in a little bit of a treacherous spot with your engine. And you saw that how many drivers are risking. We've seen when you want to give a tap, when not to give a tap, as we ride on board with Larry Yingling, a bottom driver, and then almost a small tap by Ken Campbell in the Campbell's machine.
And same, we're actually 4 wide about in the middle of the pack. It looks like the 24 there of, is that Ollie Fonseca trying that upper groove? We were 4 wide for a moment there, Sam. So these guys are definitely not holding back there.
Absolutely not. Ollie Fonseca not trying to stay off that outside wall. We talked about that during practice. Drivers were testing 4 wide, seeing if it was possible. It is, but not for very long, and that's why they cycled back to 3 wide immediately. And Josh, I know as you as a driver in many different leagues that we've covered here, Freaking Fast Broadcasting, 3 wide at Talladega, it's a great feeling when it is working well, but as you're one of those drivers that's in the back, watching the 3 wide action in front of you, what type of anxiety are you feeling as we ride from the back bumper of the 24?
So me personally, if I'm off the pack a little bit, I like to try to create a little bit of a gap to that front pack, just so, you know, if anything happens, you've got time. And I think being off that pack a little bit, it gives you a little bit, you know, more opportunities to miss the wreck, right? So if you're one of these front drivers and you're right in the thick of things, you know, you're probably not going to have as good of an opportunity to miss something if something goes amiss than if you're, you know, maybe a second off the pack and just kind of keeping your eyes peeled. So, you know, I think that's right where about, I don't know, 16th, 17th place. I think it's Joshua Kanata is really that first car in the 20th position there. You can see that little gap just from the main pack. And so, you know, just keeping your eyes peeled for any danger and give yourself a little opportunity to miss if anything goes wrong.
So right on board with 32 was Zach Hall, last season's regular season champion, trying to figure out how to place himself in a good spot in this situation as he's given himself some space. He can move up to the outside lane, but he really doesn't have a place there either as he's got the 4 machine of Mason Cassidy who's outside, now has Ollie Fonseca, but can he go, is the 32 willing to go to the bottom, stay in the middle? I mean, usually when you talk about super speedway racing, the outside lane is where you want to go if you want to move forward. Inside lane is where you want to be if you want to be kind of in a protective state, you can say, quote unquote, of you have exit plans. You have the apron if an accident goes bad in front of you or around you. But if you're on the outside or the middle, you're just banking on luck. Can you make it through the big one as it strikes right in front of us there? Cedric Hunter, bad bump off the exit of the corner. And already drivers are scattering for our first caution of the day, and that will count as our competition caution for tonight.
And exactly to your point, Sam, you couldn't have said it any better. That tap happened on the outside, which was the aggressive line. So those guys that were toward the bottom there, they had the opportunity to have an exit plan and escape. But yeah, big trouble early on, and it starts with Cedric Hunter on that outside line, and you can see just a bad bump from Ollie Fonseca there just set that off.
Yeah, I mean, it was so, Ollie's been Mr. Aggressive here in early going in the 24, forcing it 4 wide, and then right there, looks to be a bad tap just right before the exit of the corners, and the cars are still putting some wheel input, turning to the left to try to make it through the corner, and you get a bad bump, and everything can go wrong as multiple drivers involved with this incident. No one with required damage, but how many drivers are going to be willing to use a fast repair? Currently, only 1 driver's used one as the field is trying to catch up to the pace car before entering pit road, and that will be Devin Brock, who's caught up in the initial start of the race incident for the 91, deciding to use the fast repair and get back out on track. And I believe because of the timing of this incident, Devin Brock might also be the lucky dog, you know, candidate to be able to get his lap back before James Heater should be the next one in line. And now this race kind of gets interesting because we knew we were going to have at least 1 caution, our comp caution at the end of lap 30. This caution on lap 10 actually nullifies that, so we could go caution free from here. who's going to be thinking about topping off on fuel after they initially come in? Let's find out as everyone into pit road, 4 tires and fuel, or will we just see fuel for some?
Yeah, feeding time on pit road, Sam. The whole Larry England brings the whole line down there. Interesting to see who does what here. If we're gonna have any 2 tire takers, maybe fuel only. Good opportunity to get some track position, or are we gonna take 4 tires and send it back out?
As everyone enters pit road, getting service and taking off. Larry Yingling going to be one of the drivers, just fuel for the 67. Same for John Forbes. Interesting call, though. 2 tires going to be taken for a couple of others. There's a handful of drivers that decided to go with 2 tires on this stuff. That is a call I was not expecting. I thought for sure it was either 4 tires or no tires when coming into pit road.
Yeah, very mixed bag here, Sam. So it looks like Larry Yingling and John Forbes are the only drivers to let fuel only, and then the next couple 2 tires, and then we got all 4 tires behind them.
Another driver that also took just fuel only going to be Brian Noel, who was trying to gain some massive positioning here under pacing, as drivers are now being notified from race control. And huge thank you to race control here on Tuesdays and on Wednesdays, that being Stephen Benjamin, who is a massive help to have up overhead, helping these drivers out, being notified when there's penalties, giving out penalties to drivers, as well as informing you, the audience, and us is up in the booth what's going on out there on track. It's always nice to have a race control. I know for some leagues it's difficult to find someone that they can trust, but I'm happy that Full Send and WSSR have found one.
And I to further your point, Sam, I have to give even further kudos to Steve, because he's very involved even after the races as well. Not only does he do a great job in the race, but you can go to him with any concerns you have. If you have an idea about something, or if you have an issue with something, and he's very responsive. So big shout out to Steve Benjamin.
As today's race going to be the Hot Lap Threads 250. Drivers have been told, hey, you get a win. If you're one of the playoff drivers, get a win, you automatically lock into the next round. Going to be a huge lift off your back, get the monkey off your back going into the next round. But also, even if you're a playoff driver or non-playoff driver, if you get into victory lane, Hot Lap Threads going to give you a free t-shirt from their wide range of selections. So, hey, these drivers running for a little bit more than just trying to go for a win and moving on to the playoffs. Others, they might be just wanting to get that free t-shirt for themselves.
Who doesn't love a free T-shirt, Sam? I've seen grown men tackle each other for T-shirts at sporting events and other different events. So yeah, why not get yourself a T-shirt? So yeah, big trophy on the line for tonight for sure.
And fall season's is right here, so might as well get some more coverage for yourself as the field is stacking up, getting ready to take off here shortly. As it's going to be Larry Yingling, John Forbes, as well as Nick Crawford, and Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, Eric Krolick, going to be your top 6. Again, coming in, most of them just taking fuel only. For Nick Crawford, Nelson, Hall, and Krolick, 2 tires for themselves. And what makes those 4 drivers interesting, they're all working with one another, all in the same Discord channel, trying to give clear communication on what may be assisting one another to have the best performance here tonight.
Yeah, communication is going to be key tonight, Sam, like we talked about, and those alliances. If you can get your pack to stay together and work together, I can tell you from experience, it is very, very hard to pass guys who are all working together. So there's definitely a thing, with strength in numbers here. So hopefully you're on the right side of the right alliance and can find yourself in position to have a good finish here tonight.
As drivers trying to get on the right side and communicating, hey, maybe you want to be on the right side of starting your day. Right before we go green, want to give a huge shout out to the title sponsor here for WSSR, being Roasted Gems Coffee. Roasted Gems Coffee, premium coffee that you can get today. And remember to use the promo code WSSR for 5% off. They've got a wide range of flavors for you to try out. And as these drivers get set up, why not? Go to roastedgems.com, check out their wide range, and help out the league by using that promo code. As the drivers head through the tri-oval, pace car's already in pit road. Larry Yingling, John Forbes into the restart zone. We are green once again for the Hot Lap Threads 250. 67's got the nose ahead, but the outside lane looking a little bit more grouped up on how they want to be bumping one another through 1 and 2.
Yep, Larry Yingling gets that initial jump. He's got Nick Crawford pushing him, but to his outside, it looks like the 11 of John Forbes is starting to surge forward with Benjamin Nelson, giving him some assistance behind.
The drivers gotta be thinking, okay, there's no more competition caution. We can race this thing all the way to the end. Is 3 wide even wanting to be usable at this point? Or do we just stay stuck? 2 by 2, giving each other plenty of space. The mind games about to be played out here as everyone's ramping up to those full speed that you want to be at. Exit of the corner. These drivers are at 190 miles per hour, and they're going to climb to almost 200 miles per hour before they enter turn 1. In the middle of the center of Trioval, they're going 197 miles per hour, Josh. This is wild speed here at Talladega.
Things happen really fast here, Sam, and it's pretty unique. It takes about almost a full lap to get up to full speed, as you were just alluding to. So these guys are up to their maximum speed now, and yeah, very interested to see if we're going to kind of ride at this point. If everyone kind of got the jitters out early, running the 3 wide, and maybe that initial wreck kind of calmed things down a little bit. So interested to see if we run 2 or if we go back to 3 wide here.
A small little tap we saw there in the entry of the corner. Nick Crawford, 74, gave to that of Larry Yangling. John Forbes in the 11 machine looking all right with the fact that he's okay with putting some pressure, kind of pinchy, not giving space to that inside lane, which is in some ways can assist you, but I think overall can be a lot more dangerous. We're still in the early portions of this race here at Talladega. You don't want to put yourself in trouble, even though you've got the safety net of a fast repair if you get terminal damage. It's still back in this race, but you don't want to use that fast repair too soon. Put yourself in this race here tonight, as some drivers have already called it a let's just back off, give each other space. As this lead pack is around that of our top 24, then you fall back to around 26th position. There's a second group that's already being built up, and they could sense, hey, let's back off, let's not get into any trouble. It seems like this front group got a sense that it could get chaotic very quickly.
Yeah, it's tough to say what the right strategy is, Sam, because I mean attrition can break out anywhere, right? So I've seen the leaders wreck before, and you think you're safe up front. You can ride behind, and attrition can happen back there. So nowhere is truly safe, but it's not a bad strategy to kind of be off the lead pack a little bit to begin with, especially with no stage points up for grabs or anything like that. I think just surviving is going to be key early.
I like the call of just survive the best that you can. As you see Nolan Hicks just trying to roll in his own path, seeing the 9 machine of Shane Terrian right in front of him. The 9 regular season champion, but coming into this first round, Talladega Auto Club, 2 2-mile plus course tracks that you never know. It's going to be a lot of pack racing. Kind of sometimes your fate isn't in your hands. And this first round has got to be the most dangerous of all 3 of the rounds that these drivers are going to be in. And as well, this is the round that we're losing the most drivers. 6 drivers will not be moving on in the playoffs after Auto Club next week. The pressure is on, Josh, for tonight's race. You have to have a good, solid run. And for the drivers up front, they're thinking bonus points with being up front battling for the lead.
Absolutely. I mean, I said it at the top of the show, right? You can't win it today, but you can certainly lose it. With 6 people being eliminated after the first round, you know, one mistake could definitely put you in a very dangerous situation. Yeah, I think tonight's going to just be about survival and not making that mistake. And you don't want to eliminate yourself, by your own cause.
As Danny Cochran in 2 wide, trying to get out of the way for himself. He just didn't feel confident up front, was sensing it was getting dangerous. Grouping a driver's side, and let's just back out of this thing. They're starting to get 3 wide in the lead pack. Let's maybe settle down in this middle groove, but with all this movement and drivers trying to slot in where they feel the most comfortable, it's actually causing this pack that once was so clustered and clumped a little bit spaced out. Everyone's trying to find their own comfort zone and see Kanata on the inside lane, just hoping that he can get Chris Stitz off his outside.
Yeah, trust is massive here, Sam. So, you want to run around people that you're comfortable with. So, especially if you're getting pushed by someone, if someone's maybe a little bit more aggressive than you are, that's not normally a good recipe. So, oh, as we see Brian with an eye, Johnson had a big moment there in the middle of the pack. But yeah, trust is huge. You want to be comfortable with the folks you're running around, and make sure you know exactly how hard they're going to push and when, and when you can expect that push and when you can't.
As we see the four, Mason Cassidy, who's been finding a lot more pace in qualifying the last couple of weeks. Four Machines trying to find that comfort zone for himself. As you see, 3 wide up front. It's going to be seen on the inside lane, being led by the 11 of John Force. Middle is Benjamin Nelson. Outside lane, though, it's led by Gregory Smith in the 60 machine, being pushed by Brian P. Johnson at 28. Has won it here at WSSR so many times in the top echelon, the most wins in WSSR history. And Brian with Brian P. Johnson is hoping to get himself up front. I thought for a moment, you talk about the wiggle from Brian with an eye Johnson. I was really hoping we were going to have both Brian Johnsons right next to one another. And so we can just say which Brian is the better pusher, which Brian's the better leader. But for now, they try to find their own positioning as the 60 machine starting to lose momentum on that outside groove as Nelson with Zach Hall right on that rear end, moving down to the inside lane, quick by the Snowy Desert Racing team on the inside.
And Sam, you can visually see it right now. You can see where these guys are getting a little braver, and that tends to kind of be trends with these super speedway races where guys are maybe a little calmer to begin with, and then things kind of balloon out with the action, and you normally see a wreck, and then it kind of goes back to being conservative. And now that we've been running for a little while, everyone seems to get their confidence back, and the pushes start happening a little bit harder, and things seem to escalate very quickly when that sort of thing happens.
It certainly does. And what's also been interesting to watch is you're talking about that comfort zone. Back at the start of the season, it seemed like the comfort zone was there. There were some drivers, I think back to Larson Line Racing, that's kind of taken over the banner of a lot of the majority of the drivers that moved from the ISRC Truck Series over to WSSR. A lot of those drivers are working with one another. That grouping of drivers were fighting to be up front at all times at the start of the season at Daytona. Here tonight, they're playing a lot more of a patience game with the rest of the field, not being as aggressive. Instead, it's a lot of the WSSR regulars, the veterans of the series, that have been a lot more forceful on wanting to be up front.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of see the two different game plans, like you said, with Larson Line Racing just trying to kind of ride and be a little more conservative, and some of the veterans of the series, being the ones to kind of carry the flag with the aggression early. So everyone's doing a really good job, though, I've got to say, Sam. Besides that first incident, everyone's been doing really good racing this 3 wide, giving us some great action.
It certainly has. 3 drivers on the outside third lane. Everyone else slotting where they feel the most comfortable. Starting to be a little bit more of a gap being built up. I think it's more of drivers just realizing, okay, they're 3 wide. Let's get out of this train. From around 16th on back are drivers that are being a little bit more patient as they continue to stay 3 by 3. 4 rows deep as Christopher Norris now has moved to that third groove. Same with Eric Kralik. And those 2 drivers, I'm curious on what the aggression will be for the 38 of Christopher Norris. He's known at times for being a little bit over-aggressive at times. And when he comes to a super speedway, sometimes a little bit more selfish than teamwork-wise. Curious if 38's thinking selfish, or does he want to try to help with his alliance drivers of Sidewinders, being that of Brian P. Johnson and Eric Kralik?
Yeah, that'll be definitely something to keep an eye on, right? Because coming to these super speedway races, everyone, if you're in the field, Sam, like you've got a feeling of you've got a chance to win, right? And not every driver feels that every week. Obviously, we got our front runners that we consistently see running up front. But one thing I want to touch on is I know we talk about Talladega being a wild card race, but if you really dive into it, a lot of the drivers that run up front, it really is a unique set of skills. There are drivers that are better than others at super speedways, and I think although it's a great equalizer, you can see some of the same guys run up front at super speedways as well.
And drivers are starting to sense, so they're getting out of control. And the big driver we're circling up, leader of the outside lane, the 60 machine of Gregory Smith, has been struggling to hold his line. Same for the 08. They have been very close to making contact multiple times. The 08 of Brian with an I Johnson also has been scaring a lot of Nick Crawford, and Crawford just backs out. He was terrified of the bad bumps that he was given. The field gives him space. 74 gets back in line, but that was an emergency move by Nick Crawford in the 74. He thought he was going to get wrecked.
And I think that's again, two different agendas. Sam Bryan with an I Johnson, he's got nothing to lose. He's got an opportunity to get out here and lead up as we got a little content. It looks like they're going to save it, though.
Thomas Walter sent to the inside, run to the apron for a quick second. He tried to make an aggressive move on Bryan with an I Johnson in the 08. Instead, it backs him off, and now the field trying to figure out how do we get 3 wide again, as Gregory Smith has kind of been left on his own on that third lane. And bad bump, Ollie Fonseca sent to the inside wall. And just like that, hard contact for the 24, but we stay green as the rest of the field, they scatter again. We get back in line, but the 24 finally gets rolling, and the caution flag will come out as he moves up in front of the field.
Yeah, you could see you could see right there, Sam, where he pounded the inside wall. He did not hold the brake there. He just let his car drift back on the track, which very, very dangerous, moment there, because there were still some drivers that had not passed him yet.
Yeah, and he came back up with more coming traffic. That's what brought out the yellow, because he was so slow with oncoming traffic. And with that, Ollie Fonseca most likely will be penalized. That could be even a race suspension for the 24, because we've seen that in the past with other drivers that have pulled a very similar move, have found themselves either losing massively on points or have been suspended for a race. So Ollie Fonseca, frustration might have gotten to the worst of him, and he could be missing out on Auto Club next week, which a lot of drivers are excited for that race. 24 might be taking a break instead of that, which, speaking of taking a break, well, you saw the wreck happen. Bad bump sent the 24 to the inside wall, came back up on track, brought out the yellow, and I think for us, we might need a break as well, as we're coming close to 30 laps into this run. Thank you so much for joining with us for the WSSR Road to Gems Cup Series playoff racing action for the Hot Laps Reds 250. We'll be back right after this.
They're 5 wide behind the pit. Oh my, 5 wide here. This ain't gonna work. They make it last. Bumping and banging to the end. They're beating banging for the lead. Sora still with the shot here, coming off a 4. Look at it. That's it. It's
Bottom line, here it comes. I know
the
Carter gets wrecked. It's going to be that Nick Crawford. The 74 gets through somehow, and they just completely demolish one another. Trying to dive it down low, drifting up, trying to be the stealer. Here he comes. Cedric Hunter. He does it. He steals it.
but he somehow drove it into the corner to wreck him.
Oh, they wrecked! They wrecked each other! The top two bounced into one another. Just too much of side drifting off of, and they gotta be careful. Oh no! The 4 demolishes in the 28. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series action. It's Season 7, the first race of the Round of 16 playoff action at Talladega for the Hot Lap Threads 250. Currently, everyone came into pit road except for one driver, being the one of Brandon Colley, going for the track position as well as the bonus point for leading the lap. We'll see if the one wants to stay in front of this pack, or will he pull into pit road as the pace car makes the hard left-hander the field into the tri-oval. One of the longest waits before you can start rolling as the 1 and the 11 get their hands on who's going to get the better launch here into the restart zone. Colley gets the better launch as the 1 takes off. He's got no help behind him because the 52 is just a car length back.
Yeah, this is the one track, Sam, where you don't really want to get a big jump because if you get too far out, you could open up yourself to getting blown by. But it looks like the 52 is going to tuck in. Oh, just as I say that, he looks like he's going to jump to the outside. So looks like Cody Reed's going to want to try to lead this race now.
Cody Reed going to be going to the outside lane, teaming up with the 11 of John Forbes. These two have been a duo on multiple different teams through the ISRC Truck Series and finding their assistance to work as one. Put the 52 in the lead position, but Cody Reed defending the inside lane now as that outside group. You got John Forbes, Ben Nelson, as well as Christopher Norris, as they're going to be actually shimmying to the outside lane, leaving the 11 all on his own. It's Cody Reed hoping to lead a lap for the 52, and he will do so as we start lap 32.
Yeah, John Forbes got put in the sucker hole there, but he's got Thomas Walter that's going to suck up to him in the middle. Looked like Nick Crawford was maybe going to help him out, but now Nick jumps to the high side. So let's see if John and Thomas Walter can kind of maintain their ground in the middle there.
That's the field already immediately to 3 wide racing, trying to figure out, okay, who do you want to be the leader? What drivers do you trust that are around you? And I asked for it, and it finally happens. Not super close, but in the middle of this middle pack, it's Brian with a Y Johnson and Brian with an I Johnson in line with one another.
I know you've been waiting to say that, Sam, and there they are. Brian Johnson and Brian Johnson, nose to tail in the middle of the pack.
Got to go with numbers when they're in line with one another. The 28 and Brian with an I Johnson trying to work as one. Brian with an I Johnson forced in the middle, going to go 4 wide for a quick moment as Christopher Norris and others getting a little worried. They'll back off, give some space as we ride on board with the 08 Texas Speed driver, trying to figure out, does he bounce high, or does anyone want to work with the 08? There's just seems to be a little bit of sensation of, we've learned in these first 30 laps, who can we trust, who can't we trust, and now it's all about who's got the better speed at this moment.
I think Brian with an I Johnson is making a couple of these guys a little nervous, Sam, and I don't say that to say anything bad about Brian, but he essentially has nothing to lose, Sam. I mean, he's not in the playoffs. He's strictly here to win and to run up front. And some of these guys around him have a lot more to lose than he does. So he's here to race, he's here to win, and he's showing it early.
As drivers now going to be trying to make the move on Thomas Walter and Brian with an I Johnson as that third lane. You got Brian P. Johnson, Christopher Norris, and now it's going to be the 14 of Isaiah Sutherland. It's been a while since we talked about Sutherland, as when he first started running this season, he was really showing out and almost made the run to make the playoffs. Instead, the 14 just missing out by a couple of positions in points, but expecting to be very strong as a non-playoff driver, trying to be the best of the rest. As some names finally creeping into our top 10 of drivers to watch out for, at least in this lead pack. Shane Terrian, who was running back around 25th for the majority of our first 30 laps of this race. He's the fourth car on the inside in that 9 machine.
Yep, Shane Terrian kind of testing out the waters early, and now he's starting to slowly just kind of make his way to the front and test some things out, see how his car handles in the front pack, and here he is toward the front early.
As well as having the 13, Cedric Hunter behind Ken Campbell. That's a strong 3 drivers. They're going to be working as one. This whole entire inside through of a lot of fast drivers that you know can run well. But this is what pack racing gives you. You've got the front leaders just trying to cut through that wall of air, try to assist their lane to be moving faster and try to get ahead any little bit possible. But the picking and choosing on where to place yourself. Also with the time in this most recent caution, as drivers shake through the tri-oval, is timing of coming into pit road for this next pit stop. I believe with the timing of that last yellow, bringing us back to green with about 60 laps to go. This race can turn into a one-stop from here. Curious if drivers are already thinking about that, on the fact of, okay, do we just want to save fuel, push it as far as we can? Do we just get aggressive up front? Curious on the mentality that drivers might be thinking about due to the fact of the changing kind of atmosphere of when they want to come into pit road.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, Sam, because Talladega being such a big track, 2.6 miles, if you pit with a couple of guys, you can actually pit and stay on the lead lap. And, that is actually an opportunity to flip the race, so to say, because if you can come, he gets into him.
No! Thomas Walter up into the Brian Johnson. Ollie Fonseca also going to be involved with the 24. As Thomas Walter lets his car drift, drivers are scattering still to get around those that are not able to hold the brake. And in an instant, it goes haywire up front. Thomas Walter, one bad bump again, and it's through the tri-oval, and the field goes crazy. And again, it was a question of, could you trust the driver? Brian with an I Johnson was being overzealous at times, and it looks like his overzealousness takes out the 57. See in the middle, taps coming off the exit of the tri-oval when the drivers are at their loosest, and it sends the 57 back up. It's Brian on Brian contact, and the rest of the field also scattering.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Sam, it doesn't take much, especially when you're in that part of the racetrack. It's when the cars are at their lightest point, and it wasn't anything too egregious from the 08, just a little bump in kind of the wrong spot, and it sets off another big one here. And we were just talking about him, Sam. He's got nothing to lose. He was enjoying running up front, but a little too aggressive, and thankfully, a lot of these guys are probably going to go ahead and have to use their fast repair now.
One driver involved with that wreck that didn't want to be involved with it. Sadly, Ollie Fonseca, who used his fast repair before that incident, and now is most likely going to have to deal with his damage throughout the whole entire race, periodically coming into pit road to get that damage done.
Yeah, definitely not what Ollie was hoping for. I know he was excited to run tonight and had that first instance where he got turned from, he's leading the race and pounded that wall really hard on the inside there, and then getting caught up in this one. It's going to be tough for him to rebound after that.
As this will be our third caution of the day, drivers are racing to make the decision. Do we come into pit road this time? Drivers have already made 2 pit stops here tonight. So we're closing in on the halfway marker at the end of lap 45. And the field has 5 sets of tires in pit road to take, and it looks like some gamemanship on who's in, who's out, as Cedric Hunter stays out on track waiting to lead a lap for the 13 to get that bonus point.
Cedric Hunter, one of those drivers that got caught up in that first big wreck, Sam. So he's playing a little strategy, going to get himself a lap led, and we'll see if he decides to dive onto pit road after, or if he's going to stay out.
Most likely going to be staying out. We saw this from Brandon Colley in the 1. I think might be banking on a quick yellow to come out after this caution flag, as we get an inch closer and closer to the halfway zone. The kind of all take, no give is going to mount up a little bit more aggressively, as you see the 13 all on his lonesome, everyone else waiting when they're going to come into pit road. And with all these cautions that have been coming out, there's one driver that's been gladly happy to see all these yellows. James Heater was 2 laps down after the first initial start of the race, was caught up in the big wreck that got a lot of drivers in trouble. Well, the 18 just 1 lap down, and if another quick yellow comes out and the 18's not involved, well, he'll be back on the lead lap.
Well, there you go, Sam. Just never give up. It's always a good mentality to have in these races, because things get crazy in a hurry, and if you're still rolling, you got a chance to still come away with a good finish.
As the field is getting close with our leaders, this gives time for us to shout out our other sponsor here. We talked about Roasted Gems. Well, we also have to shout out Trophy Smack. TrophySmack.com, your destination to find custom trophies or trophies that are already designed and ready to be picked up, from anything from championship rings to belts to championship rings, belts, and trophies, and more can all be found at TrophySmack.com. And when purchasing, remember to use the promo code WSSR SMACK for 10% off, as WSSR Cup actually is not usable at this current time. Remember to use WSSR SMACK. That is the one that works when ordering from Trophy Smack. As the drivers are getting prepared for the 1 to go marker, I mean, we've already gotten to see 40 laps about to be started here, Josh. Anything that's been interesting that you've noticed that's kind of been odd or kind of predictable that you've been seeing so far?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised at the aggression early, Sam. Just the 3-wide racing. I would think maybe some of these playoff guys would play a little safer to begin with, but having the crutch of a faster pair, I guess kind of makes that make sense. But now that we've had a couple big ones, I don't know how many guys have used their fast repairs, but I would think that a good amount of them may have already used one. But I guess the other story is just kind of the playoff guys versus the non-playoff guys, and just the risk versus reward that some of these guys are willing to push it hard early and run up front. And we saw where that got the 08 in trouble there.
Yeah, it really did get him in trouble, and you're hoping that over aggressiveness, again, it's a learning trend. We're still learning with this Gen 4 car. I'm thinking, well, they've driven a whole entire regular season. Why haven't they fully understood this vehicle just yet? Well, sometimes it takes a full season, maybe even 2, for you to fully understand, okay, how does this vehicle work? There's also updates that sometimes come in that iRacing gives to these vehicles that kind of changes how you might be driving. So everyone's still trying to be on their best behavior on how to run it and stay out of trouble, while also putting on the best show that they can. Wanted to give you an update. I went back, you asked, you were curious on who's used their fast repair. It's actually a really small grouping that's already used their fast repair so far. 4 drivers being Ollie Fonseca, Mason Cassidy, Devin Brock, and also going to be the 27 of Jonathan Coxwell, who are going to be the 4 drivers that have used their fast repair. Everyone else yet to use theirs so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good strategy, I think, early. I mean, try to save it for as long as you can. And we've talked about this a lot, Sam. You talk about learning the car, but learning the durability of it too, because we've known this car to kind of take a hit sometimes and still perform. So I'm not sure exactly how that'll translate to the draft, but I guess we'll find out.
As basically are going to make the hard left-hander to pit road, putting the hands in control to Cedric Hunter. Also going to be Christopher Norris on the outside, Cody Reed in the 52, Eric Kralik going to be in that second row, Shane Terry and Christopher Wade going to be row number 3 as we hit the restart zone. We're green here for the Hot Lap Threats 250 Talladega race. The start of the playoffs for Season 7 as we're inching closer to the halfway zone. Cedric Hunter's going to have the nose ahead as Christopher Norris, hoping Eric Kralik will give the bumper to allow the 38 to be fully ahead.
You said it, Sam. Just coming up on halfway now. We just got 50 to go right now, so laps are clicking off in our hurry now. Cedric Hunter getting some assistance from Aaron Kralik there, and or I'm sorry, that's the 52 car of Cody Reed actually giving him some assistance. So back to 2 wide racing.
Back to 2 wide racing, and sometimes you get tripped up on drivers and numbers, especially when we've seen them in other series for so long. A certain number, they change it up maybe a little bit, throwing us off as Christopher Norris, Eric Kralik making that outside lane work for themselves as Zach Hall figuring out what momentum's going to work for himself. His driver's getting slightly wiggly to a triangle. A 32 just sent it, had a huge launch for himself, and took over 3 positions on his own on the outside.
Yeah, that was a big checkup and a big moment, Sam, with Aaron Kralik in the 01 kind of washing down into the 52 of Cody Reed there. Both drivers doing a really good job of keeping it straight. But yeah, Zach Hall saw that checkup and jumped up to the outside lane and really made up some ground right there.
Making the charge, going to have Nolan Hicks behind him. Also going to have the one of Brandon Colley trying to make the 3rd lane work. And once again, it seems like it takes about 3 laps, 2 to 3 laps after a restart that we finally see the 3rd lane emerge. And finally going to see what Zach Hall, the 32, is going to have being the leader with Nolan Hicks behind him.
Yeah, Zach Hall kind of testing that 3rd group longer, so to say, Sam. And we talked about, the top lane really being the lane, the moving lane, so to say, the passing lane, right? So if you're wanting to go to the front, that middle and upper groove is the place to be, where that bottom is a little bit more conservative that Christopher Norris is currently running.
As these drivers, you're seeing the slow merge in the middle and the 3rd lane. Moving forward as one, we hop on board with the 86 of Nolan Hicks. And just trying to give himself space to work with. He needs to move up, get some air on that front bumper, and look around. You can just see how claustrophobic it can feel when you're 3 by 3. And these drivers not giving any space to one another. It's all about the take. Get up front, set up the second half of tonight's race as Eric Kralik falls in front of the 38 chain of Christopher Norris, leaving Benjamin Nelson and Christopher Wade in the middle. But if you're looking for consistency and drivers to watch out for, they're almost lined up. That's Ken Campbell, Christopher Wade. If you watched back when we first started covering on Thursday nights, the Stars and Stripes series, the 15, the 53, they were the most dominant duo. Whenever they were attached at super speedways, they were the cars to beat every single time. And if Benjamin Nelson gets out of the way and gets those 2 lined up, watch out. They're going to be the leaders for the majority of the night.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartely, Sam. I've raced with both of those guys in a lot of different leagues, and kind of to my point earlier, there really is a certain skill set to have at super speedways, and I think those are 2 drivers that definitely have it. You always see the 53 up front, you see the 15 up front, guys that understand the draft, understand where to put their car at the right time, and the cream is kind of rising to the top here as we're just about to cross halfway.
As we wait for the official halfway announcement from race control when they cross the line, it's going to be Zach Hall in the outer groove, Christopher Wade in the middle, Eric Kralik on the inside lane. Still the rest of the field starting to space out, give each other plenty of room just in case our top out of 12 drivers, 15 drivers start to cause some calamity, because there's still, we need to have at least one more pit stop before this race is done. Field recognizing, hey, still a long race. Let's not get ourselves into any trouble. As they cross the line, it's the halfway marker of the hot lap threads. 250 this evening as Kralik's got the nose, but that middle groove as well as the outside groove starting to waver through the center of the corner.
It sure is, and Sam, I love what Zach Hall is doing here, running this upper lane, because we talked about the benefits of not running in the lead pack, but one of the negative impacts that is you don't really truly know what you're capable of, what your car is capable of. So, I know we see in real life racing, and it translates to the sim as well. Guys kind of practicing those runs, right? How long does it take to suck up and get the draft if you're a little behind someone, or how long is it going to take if you're on the outside and you're Zach Hall to get up front and try to clear the lead? So, this is almost like an audition, all for that kind of last run of the race, and practicing and seeing, what it takes to put yourself in position to try to win this thing at the end.
As drivers currently have been putting down some incredibly fast laps. Another bonus point, besides leading the lap, leading the most laps, and winning the race, is the Rocket Man Award. That's be putting down the fastest lap of the race currently. It is going to be given to the 15 machine of Ken Campbell that put down a 47.537 second lap time. That is 2/10 faster than anyone else's fastest lap. And that was put down when Ken Campbell was closing in on Benjamin Nelson down to 3 laps ago. So the 15, he's looking for that bonus point that's crucial for himself. He's also led a lap. So Ken Campbell is trying everything in his power to make sure he's in a good spot heading into Auto Club next week.
Yeah, I mean, those bonus points are important, Sam, and to be sitting halfway through the race and in the position Ken's in right now, and he's got a couple bonus points already kind of tallied up. I mean, that's great so far halfway through the race.
As the field continues to stay 3-5-3. Other drivers of note, talk about anyone's got a chance. Maybe, other races you don't have that opportunity. Fourth car on the inside. That's going to be the 6th machine in 11th place. Brad Delft. That 6th machine, this is the race. The Daytona, Talladega, the super speedways is when Brad Delft's got his chance to try to go for a win. He tried the 3rd lane, didn't really work out as well. He's now on the inside groove. Curious on what 6 might have to try to shock the world here tonight and get into victory lane.
Yeah, he seems like he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, Sam, which is, it's not a bad thing at all on a super speedway. He's kind of just, flying under the radar a little bit, running toward the front, but not being too flashy. But just, as I say that, he jumps up to the middle groove and wants to try to close in a little bit further. But, yeah, doing a really good job so far.
And now going to be in line in the middle groove. We talk about, there's the ISRC Truck Series guys. Well, here's some drivers that have ran with one another before. It's the 15, the 53, and the 17 drivers that have ran on, seeing them on Thursday nights as well as on Tuesday nights. It's Christopher Wade, Ken Campbell, Chris Stitz, and Zach Hall from the top rope to the bottom. Drops completely down, and he didn't feel like he wanted to lead anymore.
That was a massive move by Zach Hall. Sam, I had to just catch my breath after seeing that. Wow, that was a very, very aggressive move by Zach, but he made it work. He went all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom, and wow, that could have been really bad if he didn't time that like he did.
I mean, you usually don't see that aggressive of a move from Zach Hall, but obviously he wanted to get to the inside lane, as there might be thoughts of a pit stop, because everyone that was around Zach Hall, teammates-wise, have all lined up on the inside lane. There might be some thinking of, well, let's set up early, as the most of the group have really seen that 3rd lane just disappear in an instant, as staying high, going to be the 08, Brian with an eye Johnson, lap car, just trying to survive here tonight. Needs another caution if he wants to get back on pace, as the 08's just going to fall back as the rest of the lead pack continues to drive on. 40 laps to go here tonight.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, Sam, if we saw pit stops happening pretty soon. Just under 40 laps to go, and that's what we talked about a little bit earlier, right? As soon as you get in that fuel window, go ahead and make that pit stop, and that way if a caution comes out, if you manage to stay on the lead lap, you can actually cycle to the front. So, be on the lookout for different strategies here soon.
Yeah, I think that it might be lap 60, maybe even 50 could be the window. I think it's the furthest drivers can go. But I think lap 60 to 65 is going to be our true zone. I was seeing a lot of drivers thinking about pit stops here. And also, you talk about pitting as soon as the fuel window opens up to take you to the end of this race. That's just the end of regulation. There still is overtime if needed. I'm curious if any drivers ever think about calculating further ahead. Hey, we're good for the regulation of our 90 laps here tonight. but do we have enough fuel just in case we go into overtime attempt number 1, 2, or maybe even 3?
No, that's an awesome point as well, Sam. And to even further complicate matters, I know iRacing kind of came out with a relatively new feature with the auto fuel, and so sometimes if drivers just go by that, like you're saying, it could just be putting enough fuel just to get them to the end of regulation. So very good point you made there, Sam, and drivers might want to think about that when they're coming to fuel up.
Yeah, and that auto fuel also can be a hindrance even in regulation. Sometimes it can even underfuel you, thinking, okay, well, you have the draft and the way that you've been saving fuel throughout the race, being in the draft. If you're one of the leaders and you try to put auto fuel on, it can mess you up badly by not having enough fuel to take it to the end, as drivers trying to third lane. Ollie Fonseca getting the third lane by himself. He's about to fade backwards, but it's Christopher Wade, Zach Hall, side by side as we continue to race here tonight. Again, a huge shout out to our amazing sponsors, as we'll give them another call here tonight. Title sponsor being Roasted Gems Coffee. Roasted Gems Coffee, a wide range of variety of flavors. They keep on adding flavors with it being the fall season. I'd imagine they've got some fall flavors that they're excited to be sharing as they're getting prepared for a large amount of coffee to be purchased with the colder weathers. And when purchasing, remember to use promo code WSSR for 5% off at roastedgemscoffee.com. As the field continues to take off, they're all hunting if you're in the playoffs for a championship, as the official championship for the WSSR going to be from TrophySmack.com. In the last couple of seasons, it's been a championship ring that the championship driver has gotten. Well, this go round, they are getting a full-blown trophy that's going to be customized to the championship winner of season 7, where we've got our 16 drivers hunting for that championship. Will it be a past winner? Could it be someone new? Well, can't wait to show you. As again, the championship by TrophySmack.com. Remember to use the promo code WSSR SMACK for 10% off when purchasing. And on top of that as well, huge shout out to Brandon Colley's mom for being the qualifying sponsor for the last couple of seasons as well. Lap 55 of 90 right now, Josh. And the patience game, it is locked and loaded. And here we go. Pit stops, inside lane. Everyone scattering. 8 drivers trying to hit their marks. And one's already slipping and sliding into the grass. Multiple drivers touching the grass. And that's Isaiah Sutherland with the poor entry.
Oh, Isaiah Sutherland, you saw him spinning around in the grass, Sam, and I'm curious to see if any other guys may have gotten a penalty from that for touching the grass or any unsafe pit entries, but it looks like everyone else there got in clean besides Isaiah Sutherland.
And Sutherland was trying to come into pit road but got clipped by Thomas Walter when trying to come in and never hit the entry point, which is into the grass. So that's a major loss for the 14. All the other drivers, they just gave away no penalties for themselves, but a driver will be lost from the lead group. Aaron Kralik was not informed that it was a fuel-only stop. He took 4 tires, and he's going to lose the group that he came into pit road with.
Oh, that could be detrimental to his efforts there, Sam. If he loses that draft, it could be a long night for him, but we still got plenty of racing to go. And here we are now, Sam. We're kind of in 2 different groups, right? So we saw that first group hit pit road. When's the second group going to hit pit road?
Yeah, when you talk about drivers, were they thinking about the fact of the potential green white checker or not? I would say for that one group that just came in, being led by Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Norris, as well as Brian P. Johnson, they're thinking about just regulation racing on where to place themselves, not thinking about overtime. I think they got a feeling we could stay green, but this lead pack, as they're closing in on Aaron Kralik, they've got to be also thinking, where is their timing to come into pit road, as it's going to be a tricky pass by Aaron Kralik. Looks like he's holding the inside lane. Everyone else has to shift up.
Yep, everyone else is going to have to be forced to move around him. It looks like everyone's doing it so far very cleanly. And another thing to note, Sam, as we keep an eye on this front pack, when they come to hit pit road, we've talked about this all season, the front brake dialed into these cars, really, really easy to lock up that front tire. So keep an eye on that as these guys are going to trying to go essentially from 200 miles an hour all the way down to pit road speed.
Yeah, and pit road speed is going to be a crucial number to hit. That's 55 miles per hour. And here's round number 2 as drivers scatter the hard lockup from Christopher Wade. Ken Campbell, Chris Stitt squeezing as there's almost contact between those two as Ken Campbell not giving any space in 17. Colley making multiple passes as he hits his mark into pit road. I believe all drivers are good as, oh no, Colley couldn't get into pit road. Ken Campbell is going to be able to drive through all the boxes. And just like that, the uncommunication, Colley's going to have to do another drive around as he missed his box.
Yeah, that's just it doesn't make a lot of sense, Sam. If you got to know as a driver, you got to know where your box is and kind of position yourself for that. And I guess he may have thought that they were ghosts at that point, because sometimes after you pit, sometimes you can be a ghost on pit road. But hard contact on the door of Ken Campbell, that's going to be really costly for Brandon Colley.
And for Colley, it makes it even worse. He has to now drive around again, and he most likely will not have any draft help. And once again, another driver having issues under pit road. Not a black flag given so far. Drivers on the green flag stops. But Aaron Kralik, as well as now Colley, going to be in very tough situations. As Aaron Kralik, he might be banking on a yellow flag to come out and make sure he's not involved. Otherwise, he might be a lap down and more before this race is done. As this lead pack still waiting for the rest of this field to hit pit road. We got 18 drivers still needing to hit their box before the night is done. And we're in that window I was thinking about where drivers wanted to come into pit road and make their stop. Will this be the lap? And it looks like, yes, it is, for a large majority of the lead pack. And there's contact made. Ryan Kelly going to be involved. Other drivers up front locking their brakes, spinning out. Multiple drivers spinning out in front of one another. Chaos reigning under green flag pit stops.
Oh my goodness, him, the Sid's car, and he's going to back up. I think Brian Kelly might have gotten away from hitting him, but golly, talk about just a lot of havoc wreaking on pit road and mistakes happening. And we talked about it, Sam, just these mental mistakes where you could potentially put yourself behind the 8-ball heading into a cutoff race next week.
And 3 drivers, black flag on speeding on entry. Mason Cassidy, Danny Cochran, Brad Delph will have a 40-second hold once their service is done. That is a race-ending moment, or at least expected to be a race-ending moment if you get a black flag like this. Here's going to be another group hitting pit road. Expect to be the rest of the pack being led by Shane Terrian, Jonathan Cogswell, Douglas Newbigging. It looks like they're going to be clean. I take that back. Douglas Newbigging caught with a black flag on speeding.
Oh, that is massive, Sam. Another playoff driver, which I would say relatively most of these guys have gone pretty, event, minus some of the big wrecks that have happened. But in terms of getting on and off pit road, most of the playoff guys have done pretty good. So, Brandon Colley, one playoff guy, but Douglas Newbigging, another one that could be in serious trouble tonight.
And with drivers leading pit road, Douglas Newbigging still in pit road. Mason Cassidy, also another driver hit with penalty entering pit road speeding. Devin Brock in the 91, who's been struggling here tonight, caught speeding on exit of pit road. He's going to have to pull into pit road again for the 91. His night continues to go upside down. Well, the lead pack, it is drivers that pitted first. It's Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, Brian P. Johnson. This lead group with over a almost 4-second gap lead to Ollie Fonseca, Kyle Keith, Cody Reed, as they're being caught by even a bigger group. This is the second pack that's trying to catch up to our leaders, and they're running this bigger group that's just caught up to this group of 3 is running just as fast as our lead 5. Curious if they can work together and they can catch up to those the Snowy Desert Racing team.
Yeah, the Snowy Desert Racing team. I mean, what great execution. That group led by Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, and Brian P. Johnson, our top 5. You said it, Sam, over almost a 4.5 second lead for that group. So these guys are going to be crossing their fingers, hoping we stay green. And I think most of them would be pretty happy with the top 5 finish.
Yeah, top 5 finish is massive to be grabbing at this moment, especially knowing that the next race is going to be at Auto Club to figure out who moves on to the round of 10. Crucial to make sure that you have a solid run for yourself. As Ollie Fonseca kind of stuck to the inside lane with Kyle Heath as the drivers on the outer groove. Chris Ditz, Ken Campbell, Christopher Wade. They are going to be the trio that's trying to woo this group forward to catch up to the group of 5, and they're doing so. They're right about a tenth faster. With how many laps are left in this race, that gap of gaining just a little bit each lap isn't going to be a lot. In this lead pack, they've actually grabbed maybe a little bit more help as Douglas Newbigging, the one of Brandon Colley, and as well going to be Danny Cochran have caught up. That's more drivers in line, more speed. It's going to make that second pack a lot more difficult to catch up to the lead one.
It sure is, Sam. And as we're speaking about the gap is staying just about the same. If anything, the lead pack might be just pulling them just a little bit right now. So, yeah, if we see another caution, my guess is it's probably going to be from one of these Pats further back, pushing and trying to make up ground on these top 5.
Yeah, and when you get into these mentalities of, well, we got to run down that group ahead of us, it can cause patience level to really fall apart. As Nick Crawford's going to be doing a swapping, as it looks like engine temps might have been a little bit high for the 74. Get out of the way and going to fall back in line, allowing Christopher Norris to be the third car in line. Going to have to close in that gap, really mount up the speed, or could it be a little bit of gamemanship of falling back, trying to make sure that they can pull Brandon Colley along to help the 1 and the 7 to continue to battle. But it looks like for Douglas Newbegin, he's got the better push along, and the gap is just too big for Colley, Danny Cochran, and as well for Mason Cassidy to try to keep attached to what is now a group of 6 trying to pull away.
Yeah, that group of 6, and then you got a small group of 3 led by Brandon Colley right behind the leader there, as we see James Heater going a lap down. Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this front pack is they have enough of a gap there where Nick Crawford could kind of drop there and get out of line. It really didn't hurt him too much because the gap has pretty much stayed the same, Sam.
I'm listening over the radio here, Josh, and there is frustration mounting over the radio for the second pack. They are not happy on the fact that they are not all in line, as they are wanting everyone to be in line, but instead there was a group of 2 that just continued to stay on the outside that was kind of creating a parachute effect, not allowing them to catch up to the lead pack as quickly. And now let's see, where is the markings of drivers going to work as, and where's the speed's going to be at with this group, as they're a little bit happy now that they're in line, but can that happiness stay as cheerful, knowing that you've got to catch up to over 3.5 seconds to even get into the draft of this lead pack?
Yeah, and from my experience, Sam, from what I've seen and where I've been around in these situations, generally these guys are going to try this for a couple laps, and if they feel like they're not making up ground, or even worse, if they're losing ground, then that's when the frustration just continues to boil over, and that's when the pushing starts happening, and guys start moving around a little bit more, and that's where you could possibly see some trouble. So we'll see what these guys do, but it looks like that last lap, Sam, they did cut into the lead a little bit.
It was just slightly. It has now dropped it. Almost the difference between 5th and 6th place was up to around close to 5 seconds. It's now dropped to 4.3 seconds, the difference between 5th and 6th. And it looks like the second pack is starting to close in. Reason why Douglas Newbigging is really helping the second pack. He's being the parachute currently, deciding to stay high, and he's trying to make things a little bit more mixy because the 7 needs drivers to lose positions if he's going to stay in a championship fight. With getting the black flag, right now Douglas Newbigging is the lead driver of those that are on, or they are currently 1 lap down, but he's about to lose that spot because, oh boy, there's a lot of shimmying going on there. He's trying to get by the lap car of the 08 of Brown with an I Johnson, who sits in the middle groove. But for the 7 Douglas Newbigging, he needs to stay in front of James Heater and bank on a yellow.
Yeah, Douglas Newbigging is either trying to unlap himself the hard way, or he's simply just trying to kind of be that parachute, like you said, Sam, and possibly slow down this lead pack. Because his really only shot here is to grab a caution and be that first car lap down. But he's kind of holding his own right there on the outside right now. So, I mean, I know he definitely wants to be in position if the caution comes out so he can take advantage.
And he's starting to really side draft this lead group of 5. And this group of 5, they've been over the radio saying, hey, what is going on? Why aren't you in line? You're a lap down. And oh boy, Christopher Norris gets a little bit of a loose sensation as he got out of hand. Maybe a lack of focus for a quick moment, but he got close with the 7 machine. And another thing they got to be careful with is the quote-unquote wind between these drivers. When they're running this close to one another, anything could happen. Just a little bit of fluctuation somewhere could cause these drivers to make contact with one another.
Yeah, it very well could, Sam. We've seen that happen quite a bit before in a place like Talladega where, you want to try to get on that door and side draft and kind of stall the run on the bottom as much as you can. Sometimes if you get a little too close, that wind you're talking about can get you.
And it looks like the second pack closing in quickly for themselves. You can see the difference here between the drivers, and it's really being a big mixture between Nick Crawford and Chris Stitz is the fact that this gap, again, it was almost up to 5 seconds. The gap is now shrunk to less than 4 now, as with the way that Douglas Newbigging's been helping out that second pack, things are going to get very mixy very quickly here in the next 5 to 6 laps on how you're going to place yourself moving forward.
And I think gosh, yeah, you can see the 7 just, he's side drafting so hard, Sam, and I'm sure the leaders are very frustrated by this. He looks like he may dive back into the bottom here, but yeah, if I'm one of the leaders, I'm like, come on, man, just get in line and ride with us. You're not helping us here.
Yeah, and that big shimmy actually helped out a lot for the lead pack. I mean, the second pack on closing in the gap even more as you're right on board with Chris Stitz. I mean, he was happy to see that lead group when there was a little bit of side-by-side racing. Now, not so much. And that gap starting to balloon back out again. This is almost up to 4 seconds.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Sam, the gap is actually a little closer than that because looks like about 3.9 seconds Chris Stitz is to the leader, but you got to count all the lap cars that are behind the leaders as well. So that gap is actually even smaller than we think.
Yeah, it is. And also, they might get a little bit of help here as Devin Brock being passed by the lead pack. Where is he going to slot himself, and how much assistance will that be for the drivers in the second pack to try to close in as quickly as possible as the field? They're running out of time. They need to make these big moves quickly because we're coming up to 17 laps to go. And if you're only gaining a 10th or even just 100 here or there, that's not enough time to be made up. You've got to be slightly quicker if you want a chance to fight for the last 5 to 8 laps of this race.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sam. And I'm looking at the live time, and they've actually lost a little bit now. So they're definitely going to have to figure something out because they were gaining a little bit there, but seemingly it's kind of stalled out a little bit, and it's actually starting to go a little bit in the other direction now.
And the reason why we're starting to see the parachute side by side, it's the 18 James Heater now going to be the lead lap car. As the games between the 7 and the 18, they're going to fight back and forth because they are fighting to see who's going to be on get that lucky dog position just in case the yellow flag comes out and they're not involved. But our top 5 that's leading this lead pack, they have to be, again, frustrated and annoyed on the fact that they just can't simply just stay in line. That's how they're the fastest and will stay ahead.
That's exactly it, Sam. And let me pose a question to you real quick. If you're one of these top 5 drivers, are you content with just riding and getting, a solid top 5 finish heading into the next round? Or are you looking at this as an opportunity to say, I'm up in the top 5, I might as well go for the win and see if I can go ahead and punch my ticket?
I mean, if you were Ryan P. Johnson, Zach Hall, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, those 4 drivers in the top 5 came into this race technically outside of our top 10 in points. They had no bonus points coming into tonight's race. I'd imagine those 4 are going to ditch Ben at some point, and it's going to be a duel between those 4 on who's going to get the win. I don't expect them to do anything aggressive to ruin their race and not finish inside of the top 5 if they can stay ahead of this second pack. But that's going to be the big thing. Can they get enough spacing to race it out between just the 5 of them?
And right as we say that, Sam, if we flash back to our second pack here, these guys have had enough. And just like we talked about, the patience has run out. They saw where they were no longer gaining, and they're running 2 and 3 wide now. So keep an eye on this second pack back here, where some pushing might start happening, and this could be where we could possibly see a yellow.
A little bit of symmetry maybe between the first pack and the second. They both decided to go side by side at pretty identical moments of it's time to go. The reason for the first pack, all those drivers on the outside, those are lap cars trying to unlap themselves the hard way to make sure they're not in any trouble with the groups around them. The rest of the drivers behind, though, in that second pack, like you said, the patience kind of uncorked itself. It's go time. They no longer want to wait. It's attack mode. And with the attack mode, actually, they're closing in on the lead pack. It's now down to just that of 3.5 seconds between 5th and 6th place.
Yeah, they've almost gained a second from where they were, Sam, because riding single file, they cut it down to about this margin, and then they fell back to about 4.5 seconds back, and now about 3.3 back, Sam. So who would have thought that going aggressive now, they're actually starting to make some hay.
They really are, and it is, again, with them both being side by side, though, they're both adding parachutes to one another. It's about who the lead car is. Can they get enough of a run to stay ahead? Is the lead pack going to be closing in on Isaiah Sutherland, who stays in the 3rd lane? Will this lead pack drive on by? The 14 will try to stay attached. We'll see how well he can do it. It looks like he'll decide to just drop down low, but he's going to be too slow to keep up with the momentum. Over a 20 miles per hour difference between Isaiah Sutherland and the lead pack, and you really can't get that just a quick inertia built up in the short manner of time to just fall down behind him.
And just like that, Sam, it's got to be so disheartening for the second pack, because they make gains, and it seems to be 1 step forward and then 2 steps back. It's just like that, they've lost a couple tenths again. So barring something happening, Sam, I don't know if the second pack is going to have time to catch him.
Lead group, got a half of this lead pack is lead lap drivers. The other half is going to be lap traffic, the pack that we have our camera on. This is the second pack that's racing, being led by Cody Reed, Ken Campbell, as they're driving by Isaiah Sutherland. And the decision of, okay, well, maybe we're not racing for the win, or could they? Because lap cars could turn this race upside down, because they're running for their own positioning on where they need to finish. Because for Brandon Colley in the 1, he needs to be the furthest up ahead of the lap cars. He's fighting for that championship. Same for Douglas Newbegin. They can't afford to be the last driver of the lap cars in this lead pack. They could cause a little bit of reckless driving. They could actually take out and wipe out some of our lead drivers in our top 5.
Yeah, I mean, they very well could, Sam. And, at the end of the day, like you're saying, even if you're not racing for the win, we're in the playoffs. Every point matters, Sam. So even if you're in that second pack and you're running just outside the top 10, the difference between, maybe call it a 9th place finish to a 13th place finish. I mean, that's 4 points. And, I mean, how many times have we seen the difference of just 1 point in the make or break for, advancing to the next round?
I mean, you think back, watching here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting this past Monday, we were having the cutoff race for the ISRC Truck Series drivers, and it was a 2-point difference between the top 2 drivers that made it into the playoffs, and the bottom 2 drivers, I should say, that made the next round of the playoffs, and the driver that missed out. It was just a 1-point difference between all the positionings, and it was a very close battle on who was in or out. And with 10 laps to go, it seems like 3 wide between forcing the lap cars, between the lead lap drivers. We got our lead lap drivers on the inside lane. They're going to stay put. They're not going to be giving up any positioning. The lap cars, this is the big parachute you're hoping for if you're in that second pack. This is your opportunity to close in the gap with all this movement and just lots of air and speed on the back half of this group.
Yeah, it is, Sam. And I don't know. I think we're just a little too far away now. The gap's just a little too big. We're under 10 to go now. Steven Benjamin, our race control, put it out in the air. 10 to go now, 9 to go in the race. I don't think that second pack's going to have enough time, Sam.
Lead pack is our top 5, and then 6 lap cars. Our second pack is from 6th all the way to 16th. Then another grouping of around of 5 drivers is from 17 back to 20, that of 20th position. You see Joshua Kanata, 16th position. Kanata came into this race at a precarious spot, needing some massive points for himself. And then you see this grouping of 4 being led by Ryan Kelly after his woes on pit entry. Brian Noel, Nolan Hicks, Cedric Hunter just trying their best to continue to fight moving forward, as James Heater never got the caution he needed, had to pull into pit road as the 18.
Yeah, tough break for James Heater tonight, but I do want to circle back to your point, Sam, talking about this front pack, right? Everyone's in really good position right here, right? When we're talking about points and trying to make it to the next round, and it can be really hard when you have the opportunity to win. You can see that race one in front of you, but you still have to, at the same time, you got to think about the bigger picture. And these guys, especially with a couple of our guys having some issues tonight, you could be really setting yourself up for playoff advancement by just having a strong run tonight. So, I'm fine with mixing it up, maybe on the last lap, but just you got to be careful and make sure you don't throw a good night away.
That's going to be the big thing. Just don't throw it away. So continue to battle side by side. 7 laps to go. It's the 7 of Douglas Newman lap car trying to unlap himself the hard way on the outside lane. And everyone on the inside groove going to be our top 5 that are in this pack. The only lead lap drivers in this pack that we're seeing in our shot are those 5 on the inside. And seeing a little bit more grouping. We've seen lap cars, lead lap drivers in this pack, the second pack, and trying to get back in line again. See if they can mount up some more momentum. But they have stalled out, and it's a duel between who can finish in 6th for that second pack, unless a caution flag waves, which is always the unknown. And for this lead group, talked about pit strategies almost 30 laps ago about if you pitted early, you're most likely thinking about this race is going to finish under regulation. But if we go another 2 more laps and a caution flag comes out, then we're heading to overtime. And for Benjamin Nelson, I don't know if he's got the fuel for overtime.
Yeah, this front pack, Sam, is just they're crossing everything they got to make sure this race stays green, because and completely contrary to my last point, Sam, where I talk about having a good night. Can you imagine being Zach Hall right now? You're sitting P2. You've been fast all year. You have yet to get that win that you so much desire, and here you are with a shot at it.
Oh, caution! And it's Larry Yingling. Larry Yingling's going to find himself being spun around after contact between himself, Ken Campbell. Campbell poking the nose, and it went bad for the 15 off the nose of the 11 of John Forbes.
Oh, Sam, this changes everything. I don't know what, we might have to go a little further back to see exactly what happened. We caught those guys. It looked like they were both below the apron, so I don't know if one of them got loose or what happened, but yeah, just kind of an odd looking wreck there, Sam.
Yeah, so what happened was right on that shot, immediately when there's a cut down by the 15, there was a late move as John Forbes goes to the middle lane, trying to pass Ken Campbell. Campbell tries to defend and block. It goes wrong. Campbell gets spun off the nose of the 11, and Larry Yingling, being the innocent victim on the inside, gets hooked by the 15. They go into the grass, and that's what brings out our yellow, with the 67 moving back up on track in the third pack, blasting on by.
And that's what we talked about, Sam. If we were going to see a yellow, it was most likely going to be that second pack being aggressive and trying to catch up. And now it's decision time, Sam. What do you do?
I mean, you got a feeling you have to come to pit road if you're these front runners. It's difficult to not come into pit road unless you feel like you're 100% good on fuel. And what's going to be interesting, I believe at the timing of this yellow, we might be inside of a regulation green-white checkered. So Benjamin Nelson and everyone else up front, they're not forced to come into pit road, but I like the call from the guys on back. Come into pit road, get tires. It's going to be a good movement and a little bit more confidence that you've got the grip underneath you to attack, and you get some fuel that you know that you're 100% good if we go into overtime.
Oh, Sam, I have this feeling it's about to get really wild here. I mean, this was kind of the calm before the storm, and I think Kyle Busch said it best: you can do whatever you want all night, but you're always gonna have a green-white checkered, right? And it looks like it's gonna be a natural one to start with. So Man, it's about to get wild.
It certainly is. And before things get too hectic, we'll do one of our final shout outs to our sponsors here tonight. As we want to give a huge shout out to our title sponsor, Roasted Gems Coffee. Hey, we talked about their wide selection of different flavors. Well, they also have merch line that you can check out of different clothing items as well as other objects that you can get with Roasted Gems Coffee plastered on it. Remember, when purchasing at roastedgems.com, remember to use promo code WSSR for 5% off. And Trophy Smack. Well, some of these wrecks, they've been nasty, they've been big, but have they been the true big one yet? Are we going to have our wall smack moment of the race? Well, what's wall smack? It's a metal plate that you can get that's a high gloss metal piece, a work of art, you could say, that's completely customizable for you. Pick an image, put the image on the wall smack, and it comes with, currently, there's a new product line of a stand that you can put your wall smack on to be able to show off your work of art that you've gotten from Trophy Smack, or you can go with their wall safe magnet mounting system that allows you to place the wall smack against the wall safely without any harm or damage to the wall. Thank you to Trophy Smack. Remember, when purchasing, use the Trophy Smack, use that of wall smack, WSSR smack, excuse me. I was tripping up on my words there, for 10% off. As the field prepared, ready, Josh, it looks like the way that they're lining up, it's an inside the regulation green, white checkered.
Yeah, regulation same, which means we still have the opportunity to have multiple attempts at green, white checkers here. So, yeah, I mean, I'm catching my breath because I know it's about to get wild here, Sam.
Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a good one. Because we are inside the regulation, this is not overtime, but the same rules of overtime still attest here. It's a green, white, checkered. When we go green, the drivers will be given 2 laps to finish this race. If under the first lap we get a caution flag, we will then head into overtime. But if we get the white flag, this race turns official, and it's all about who crosses the line first. And drivers were notified after the North Wilkesboro race earlier in the season. White flag does not give you 100% immunity from penalties. If you arc a break into a mess on the white flag, you could get penalized for the next week. Curious if that's going to change also any mentalities of drivers just full blasting through some of these wrecks we're expected on the white flag.
It very well could. And Sam, please remind me, do we have multiple attempts or is it just a single attempt at overtime?
We've got multiple attempts. We've got 3 in total if needed, if we go into overtime. Again, we're not in overtime just yet. We're still in regulation. So if we get a caution, we got 3 attempts after this.
And I think, Sam, that's really going to start coming into play if we do go into overtime, and if we have more than 1 attempt. You talk about those drivers that pitted early, and I really think fuel might be a concern at that point.
Top 5 drivers pitted over 33 laps ago. They should be good on fuel for at least this attempt. It's anything past this that we are concerned about. We are still in regulation, 90 laps in total. We've had a couple of pretty nasty wrecks, but it hasn't been a full field, just mess and mangle. Do we have one of those wrecks, or could we find ourselves with a clean restart here? Let's find out. Pace car into pit road. It is playoff racing action for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. It's the first round, the round of 16, race 1 of 2. Season 7's been a good one so far. I've seen a lot of first-time winners this season. Could we see someone else get their first Season 7 win? As here we go, the hot lap threads. 250 is back underway, and they're already scattering behind. That looked to be Brandon Colley and a couple of others having a mess in pit road. That's Brian with an eye Johnson and Isaiah Sutherland in the grass as they have been told 2 laps to go. No yellow. We continue to race.
And Christopher Norris really kind of hung back on that restart, Sam. It looked like he had a little bit of a gap there to Zach Hall, but now it looks like they're getting lined back up and the energy's starting to form. Shane Tyrion's going to bounce to the outside, make it 3 wide.
Shane Tyrion's been waiting all race long. The highest that he's moved up was 6th place here tonight. Now going to be on the outside lane, hoping John Forbes is going to close in the gap. It is not there just yet. Penalties are being cleared out because of that initial spin by a couple of drivers, but they're wrecking Brian Noel, others in the middle of the field. We're heading to overtime.
and just a little bit before the line, Sam. This start-finish line, we talk about is further down than Daytona, so gives more opportunities for cautions to wave, and there it is, Sam. We're gonna have our first overtime attempt.
Brian Noel required damage. He's going to have to go into pit road. It does have a fast repair to work with, so the 77 day is not completely over. But here's what brought out the damage. You see the white machine on the outside. That's Kaufman. Bad bump to the 11, sending the 77 to the outside wall. Ryan Kelly to the inside wall. And everyone else in the middle just going for a spin around for themselves.
Oh man, tough break for those guys, but it sounds like they're going to have an opportunity to come and get it fixed with the fast repair there. And here we go, Sam. Here begins the discussion. How much fuel do we have?
Yeah, I mean, you got to make that decision quick if you're up front. Timing of that yellow, Zach Hall taking the lead. Christopher Norris going to be in second. Nelson going to be in third with Brian P. Johnson fourth. Wade in fifth. Nick Crawford did fall down to sixth position under just one lap being ran, and we are done with regulation racing. We are officially in overtime. It's going to be our first attempt of 3 if needed. And, having that phantom overtime attempt, the inside of regulation, green, white, checkered, that always makes things interesting when the real anxiety anticipation ramps up. Everyone knows every pass is so important. And who's going to move up to that third line the first is going to be a big decision here on this takeoff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw Shane Tyrion kind of planned it out, and he was the first one to kind of bounce up there and take that first chance. And looks like a couple guys are hitting pit road, maybe towards the back of the pack here. But these front guys, Sam, they're staying out.
It looks to be a lot of non-playoff drivers that were caught up in that mess, deciding to come into pit road, going to get service done, make sure their car is repaired and ready to take off. Brian Noel also has entered pit road, used the fast repair. 77 expected to be back out on track very quickly here. And for drivers that haven't used their fast repair, this is going to be such a complicated time. And a couple of drivers have under a couple of more have been added to our mixture. Ryan Kelly's used his fast repair already for the 3 machine. Thomas Walter has used a fast repair. Gregory Smith, and also going to be the 67 of Larry Yingling has used his fast repair, joining with everyone else that we've talked about previously, being Ollie Fonseca, Mason Cassidy, Devin Brock, and Cogswell. Rest of the field still up in the hands are up in the air of if a wreck happens and there's a yellow flag, we're still in the fight, but you're most likely not going to get the best points day that you were hoping for.
Yeah, it's true, Sam, and that's where a lot of trouble happens when guys are back in the pack, and the joke is you talk about guys who are quote unquote trying to win the race from 16th or from 20th place, and it's just not going to happen. So you see some of these really aggressive moves happening in toward the middle and back of the pack, and some of those guys are going to just find themselves in trouble. Where these guys at the front of the pack, a lot of them have a very realistic shot at winning it, especially if the front row, front 2 rows start getting dicey and wrecks happen, especially on that white flag coming to the line. I mean, we've seen guys, as far back as 10th place or even further who kind of split the Red Sea at times. And I think of Nick Crawford in one of our charity races that we had earlier this season, Sam. He was one of those guys that split the Red Sea and went on to win the charity race. So anything can happen when we get down to the end of these things.
Yeah, that charity race being our Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation Daytona 500 earlier in the year, and that was in the next-gen cars, able to use the bumpers a little bit more aggressively and kind of be saved most of the time if you were able to line up the bumpers properly. Here tonight, though, some of these wrecks that have happened, it's been just poor lineups. And I think also with these late wrecks that we're expecting to see, it's going to come down to maybe a little bit of lack of experience, you could say. I mean, the majority of the drivers that are up front have been up front, but right what we saw there, James Kaufman, a driver that we have not seen at all be aggressive and using the bumper at all, gave the bumper to John Forbes and kind of started that calamity. I'm curious on any other drivers that we haven't really talked about being up front that maybe haven't tested out the front bumper, giving it a little bit too strong and may have to be a worry coming out of turn 4 here when the drivers are mostly up to speed as we are in overtime. Currently, ladies and gentlemen, this is our first attempt of 3 if needed. And this race is going to be an interesting one. We thought we were going to finish under green, but a late caution put us into a green-white checkered in regulation time. We just got a wreck out of turn 4. And now it's time to see what overtime brings for us in playoff race number 1 of season 7. This round of 16, so crucial. Every point, every position could matter if you're going to move on to the next round. As next week will be the last race of the round of 16 at Auto Club. And all these drivers know it is go time. Because we're in overtime, the rules are if we get a yellow under this first lap, we will head into overtime at attempt number 2. But if we get the white flag, it is all about who crosses the line first. And Josh, it is all down to this. Who is going to survive overtime? And if you're one of the drivers in red on our ticker board, you're in the playoffs. And if you win, you're moving on to the next round automatically.
Yep, time to see who's going to survive, who's going to snatch this opportunity and try to punch their ticket, Sam. Is Zach Hall's going to be the one to lead them to the green flag?
Zach Hall, Christopher Norris, Benjamin Nelson, Brian Johnson, Nick Crawford, they thought the race was in their hands. It's been shaken up. It's now down to who can survive. It's the Hot Lap Threats 250 Talladega race 1 of the round of 16. Here we go as the drivers roar down into turn number 1.
Very organized start there by Zach Hall. He's got Benjamin Nelson right on his bumper. Little get back to Christopher Wade, but that's going to close up, and now it's the top that's going to start surging with Christopher Norris.
We saw that Shane Tarrington in the 9 machine being the first driver to pop up to the third groove. Will he be the first? It looks like he's backing off just slightly, setting up. Who's going to the third lane? It's going to be Larry Yingling back in the middle of the pack, but everyone's just doing a slight shimmy up to that third groove on where they want to be. Let the chaos reign. 3 wide as we enter turn 3.
And the speed is starting to build, Sam. These drivers almost at the point where they're up to full speed now. We see that third lane trying to make ground up, and it's going to look like they're going to come to the white flag here.
As they're going to be in line 2 by 2 for the most of our top 20. It's going to be Christopher Norris, Zach Hall side by side, but Ryan Kelly on the third groove hoping to make a move. Nick Crawford bounces up. Same for everyone else. The middle groove shimmies away. It's your Roasted Gems white flag for the field. We only needed 1 attempt. Let the chaos go down as the field exits turn 2.
Christopher Norris got really loose there. It caused him to stay in the middle, and they're wrecking behind. But Zach Hall is the one leading the charge with Benjamin Nelson pushing him.
And it's going to be Zach Hall, Benjamin Nelson, Cody Reed on the inside groove, but it's Christopher Wade, Shane Tarrington going to be leading the middle and the outside lane. Well, Christopher Wade, he gets tapped. Spud is the 53. It's down to Zach Hall, Benjamin Nelson. Lock yourself into the next round. The 79 to the outside. Zach Hall in the 32 on the inside groove. Could Cody Reed be the stealer? Inside, down to the yellow line. Cody Reed steals it at the line. Benjamin Nelson open, he's got it. It's 7 thousandths. Cody Reed by a thousandth of a second gets a win at Talladega.
Oh my goodness, Sam, what a finish. 3 wide photo finish across the line. Cody Reed, a non-playoff driver, comes and steals it at the last second.
It's so close. It's bouncing back and forth, giving shades of full send. SDK says one, iRacing says the other. And on my calculations and on iRacing, it says Cody Reed by a thousandth of a second. And here's how the finish went down. 52 inside lane. Zach Hall in the middle. There, that of Benjamin Nelson went so high up, hoping he had the momentum. But at the line, it was so close between the outside, the bottom lane. And it's Cody Reed having the finish.
And I'm interested to see Sam. I don't think it's an issue, but it looks like the 52's left side tires may have touched the yellow line, but as long as he didn't go below that yellow line, I think he'll be okay. So I think Cody Reed may have stolen. You can see right here, Sam, right on that yellow line. I'm sorry, that's after the finish, but it looked like coming to the line, he may have touched that yellow line, but I think he's going to be okay.
He's good. He's fine. It is Cody Reed, iRacing, giving the 52 He ducked, he waited, and Zach Hall might have been too invested on where the 79 was, moved up, trying to build some side draft to Benjamin Nelson, which gave a complete wide open door to Cody Reed to the inside lane. And he said, thank you very much. I'll use this momentum. I'll take away the shorter distance. And the 52 with the better momentum had the draft all the way through the exit of the corner, through the tri-oval. And it's too close to call by your eyes, but it's iRacing giving the nod to the 52 machine as they're side-by-side equal distance at this moment. But another 100 feet later, it's the 52, Josh. Just an incredible move by himself to grab his first WSSR victory.
Unbelievable finish, Sam. I mean, we saw a lot of action tonight, but man, to come down to a 3 wide photo finish, and you called it traits of full send we saw at Daytona. I mean, you can't get any closer than this, Sam. I mean, what an unbelievable finish.
We thought Full Send had the finish of the year. Well, you've got some competition identical across the line 2 times this year. 2023, what a year it's been. And for season 7, no one is locked in just yet to the round of 10. Whew. Next week at Auto Club, Josh, it is gonna be a mess on who's in, who's out, because these points with some of those big wrecks that happened at the end, it shook up where a lot of the top contenders wanted to finish. As we will come back after this, we're going to talk to our top 3 for the post-race show. Cody Reed, Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, and a spotlight driver. And then after that, it comes down to the calculators. Where will drivers be placed to set up for Auto Club? We'll find out right after this. Woo! We got to catch our breath. What a finish. We'll be back in a few. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, you caught your breath. That was one of the closest finishes you could ask for. Then it came down to the wire. Our ticker said one thing, iRacing the game said another, and it goes down to what iRacing deems as the winner, and it's the 52 of Cody Reed. As we will head down to victory lane to the thief of the night, the 52, Cody Reed. Cody, a season ago, your first ever race for WSSR, you take the pole. A season later, you get your first WSSR win. How are you feeling getting the victory here at Talladega?
I am feeling absolutely great, Sam. I've almost lost my voice completely from screaming so much. I'm really hyped up. I can't even keep I'm trying to move around my mouse on my computer and I can't even keep my hand on it cuz it's shaking so much cuz I'm just I don't know, the adrenaline. I'm hyped up. I didn't wreck anyone. That was my main goal going into this race. I didn't want to wreck one of the main contender guys. Um, but man, what an upset! Coming in, this is like my third or fourth race of the season. Coming in and winning, I'm feeling great. This is awesome.
Well, Cody, congratulations, man. What a finish, man. And we see you as a regular in the ISRC Truck Series on Monday nights. I mean, just talk about the seemingly no pressure you had tonight. Just come out and race. And one of our big topics was kind of the non-playoff drivers versus the playoff drivers. Like, how did you race? Keeping in mind you don't want to necessarily cost anyone their season, but you want to just come out here and have fun and win. How'd you balance that tonight?
I just kind of played it safe all race. I was pretty aggressive up front and just tried to avoid the wrecks. I never would get too close to someone's bumper because I didn't want to cause anything, obviously. Um, but I drove it like pretty much any other super speedway race other than that. Like in the truck series, I'm relatively aggressive at super speedways, but I always keep it clean for the most part. And usually whatever takes me out of those is just getting up in a crash. But I like to think I'm a pretty good super speedway racer. Knowing when to take a run and everything, and knowing when I should be pushing someone, this that. But I just wanted to keep it out of wrecks and everything, and taking anybody out. I didn't even use a fast repair tonight. That's what I'm really happy with. Just didn't get involved with anyone. No, that was, like I said, that was my main goal. So this is way better than that. Than what I was going into the race thinking it was going to be. I figured maybe a top 10. I'd be pretty happy with that. But yeah, this is pretty awesome.
I mean, Cody, like I said, right when you came in here, your first ever WSSR start, you got the pole here at Talladega. A season later, you found yourself with the win. And I believe with this win, you've now won in all the series that we've seen you run in practically here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, that you show up for those league races. How does that feel, knowing that now you've got WSSR in the win column and you can check that off of your history books?
Man, it feels good. I think now I'm on Sim Racer Hub. I have one of the highest pole percentage and win percentages now. So that's pretty awesome. I might come back next season though, so that'll probably change. I guarantee you I won't win as many poles and races and everything. If I come back next season, but I probably will show up for a lot more races next season. But for right now, the top of that win percentage and pole percentage column, so that feels pretty good. But I'm glad I can win on a track that's not a road course. Like super speedway, it's kind of a crapshoot. Obviously, there's some big wrecks tonight that took out some really good guys, especially at the end. But it's a different style of racing. And I could say I won on a super speedway, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, Cody, congratulations. The thief of the night, you could say, here for the first race of the playoffs. You're going to make things interesting going into next week by stealing this win from the playoff drivers. And thank you for making the storylines great. Enjoy this one. And before I officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone I was talking to during the race. You had my usual Truck Series teammate, John Forbes. He was in there. I was talking to Larson Line during the race. We were kind of goofing around during the whole thing, cracking jokes. I wasn't really serious this whole race, and but it was a lot of fun being with those guys all race. And I'd like to thank you guys for putting on this show, and it's great as usual. I'd like to thank the admins for, letting me come in and make some part-time starts. I wasn't full-time. I know a lot of people get kind of annoyed by some people coming in, making a couple select starts and maybe causing some wrecks or anything. So, um, yeah. And I'd also like to thank my dad because he's cool and he's watching right now. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, that will be your winner here tonight for the Hot Lap Threads 250. Also, Cody, with being the thief of the night and stealing this win for the playoff drivers, you also find yourself with a free T-shirt. Congratulations on that.
No!
Enjoy it, and have a great rest of your season. If we see you race again, I can't wait to see how you're going to perform. Otherwise, we'll see you next season.
All right, see ya. I'm excited for my shirt.
Well, that's Cody Reed from Victory Lane, and now we go down to the driver that maximized himself on points, almost got the win. We bring in Benjamin Nelson. Ben, I mean, this finish kind of capitalizes on how your season has been going, you could say. Dominance up front, and then something happens at the end that can steal it away when we think that you're going to win almost every race. How are you feeling? Because when that finish happened, our telemetry said that you won from SDK. iRacing said another thing. What was going through your mind when you crossed the line at the end of this race?
Well, for the most part, I was disappointed for sure that I didn't win, but I had to look at it like we just got out of Talladega with a second place finish. Like that is amazing for points because I could easily see myself going out of here with a 28th place finish. So me being in the position I am right now, points wise, is really good looking into this next race at Auto Club. So I would have loved to have got that win, but man, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, Ben, it was a really solid night for you, man. Let a lot of laps. Walk me through. You guys had the top five had seemingly had the strategy of the night where you were able to gap that second pack, where you guys were just seemingly riding to the very end there. Take me through your thoughts when that caution came out with about five to go.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't want to see that. I felt like we were gonna duke it out amongst ourselves, but I feel like if we like at the time we could have just, band together and pushed and pretty much there was not gonna be much anybody else could do. Maybe if someone sixth on back got a run on the high side, the very top, maybe they could challenge. But if we just put our heads down and focused two by two, I don't think there was really going to be much that could be done about it. We were just going to fight right to the line, but it didn't happen that way. So uh, we had little mix-ups here or there. People get good restarts, bad restarts. Things happen at Talladega. It's the way it is, but it was exciting. That's another classic Talladega finish for you.
I mean, a classic for sure. I mean, ties with the one of the best finishes we thought we had on Tuesday night. Instead, it's going to be a competition between the both on who had the closer finish. Our data doesn't go that far to say who did. Ben, an incredible run for yourself. It looks like points are being updated currently. It looks unofficially you're going to have a 20-point buffer to work with heading into Auto Club next week. What is the confidence level heading into Auto Club, knowing that you got that points buffer to work with?
I mean, in terms of points racing, I think it's pretty comfortable. Definitely not locked, but I don't have a whole lot of pressure going in. I can just race the way I normally would, and I feel like I have a pretty good chance of getting a top three there. I'm pretty confident heading into there. I've done a lot of races in this car at that track. It's a lot of fun. You can move around everywhere, a lot of opportunities to pass, and it's hard on tires, which I also enjoy. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, Ben, we can't wait to see how you're going to perform next week and try to move on to the round of 10. And before we officially let you go here tonight, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out to all my family watching the stream. Thank you guys. I'd like to give a shout out to Roasted Gems Coffee, Trophy Smack, all these drivers for putting on a pretty good race. That was a pretty good Talladega race. It can be pretty ugly out there, but this one was not bad. And also all my coworkers that are tuning in, I appreciate you guys. Uh, my team's also working together really well, and we show that in this race. So thank you to all of my teammates that helped all of us out, not just me. Everyone did their part.
Well, that will be the 79 machine of Benjamin Nelson. Ben, congratulations on second, building up that points lead going into next week, and good luck at Auto Club.
Thank you.
Well, from second place, we go down to third. Zach Hall. He was right there at the end, had the lead coming out of turn number 4, but instead finishes in 3rd. Zach, I mean, you survived. You can take that as a positive. You're coming into next week. It looks like unofficially 2nd in points. But man, how are you feeling after tonight? Because it looked like it was a roller coaster for a lot of drivers.
Ooh, I think I took a couple years off my life tonight. I definitely got more gray hair added to the addition I've already got at my young age. And man, I tell you what, I'm happy with 2nd or 3rd, whatever it is. I don't even, it doesn't really matter. We got back to the finish line. That was the big thing because, we played, I think, that race perfectly as like a team. We were working with Sidewinder too, so we were kind of affiliated with them. And I think we played that as picture perfect as it could, and it kind of happened like Daytona earlier in the season where we caught the unfortunate caution coming down at the end with the gap we had over the field. So I knew once we got those restarts, it was going to get wild, and luckily we lucked out and survived and had a chance to even fight for a win.
Yeah, Zach, awesome run tonight, man. It was great to see you run up front. I know that win is coming for you. You've been flirting with it for these last several weeks, but just take me through your thought process, kind of going on that last lap. Is there anything else you think you could have done to prevent Cody Reed sneaking under you right there?
Yeah, that's exactly what I could have done personally, Josh, is, you know, coming off of 4, I saw the wreck happening. So I knew at that point Ben was going to make his move and we were going to be able to race through the line and not really have any worries. So I knew he was going to make it pretty soon. I saw him, jut out to the right there, make his move. And as soon as he made that move, I went to go cover it off. And then you can't really block in these cars. Like you can, but you're asking for a lot from the guy behind you. And I didn't want to put Ben in that position to, wreck me or lift. So I decided, let him go to the outside. We'll race it to the finish line. If I get second, I get second. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I just want the points for heading into next week. But then I had seen a blur of pink in my left rear right there in the mirror, and I could see his quarter panel, and I was like, that's a car. And as soon as I seen it, he was already to the inside. It said car inside, so I couldn't even cover the move off. So I kind of got caught there, not just paying attention personally to what was in the mirror. I was so focused on Ben that I kind of got sidetracked with Cody, and he snuck up the inside and got his first career win. So good on that kid.
Yeah, I mean, when we were watching the replay of that end of the race, kind of noticed that kind of focus on it's been, oh shoot, type of a moment. We were watching it on slow mo. But Zach, again, 2nd in points. Heading into next week, it looks to be about 11-point buffer you have back to 11th place to stay inside of the top 10 after Auto Club. What is the confidence level heading into Auto Club, knowing that the points are still pretty close when you look at the wide picture of all 16 drivers?
That's very true, Sam. It's still very, very close. And, if we have a 33 car field again, if you get in a wreck at Auto Club, we don't have fast repairs. And if you get in an incident early in that race and you take yourself out of contention, I could easily lose those points. So I'm not going in with, this is a guaranteed lock, but we did personally everything I could ask tonight to, better my opportunity for next week. And personally, I feel like next week's a opportunity where we can get in victory lane. And that's something I want to do so I can get some playoff points for that next round. So we'll see if we can do that. Auto Club's a very strong racetrack of mine, and I'm thoroughly excited headed into that race just to see if not only we can go get the win, but try to go make it to that next round because this first round just very scary.
It certainly is. Well, Zach, before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Well, first off, shout out to my teammates, man. Snowy Desert Racing, they've been fantastic. We worked together so well tonight. We had a few miscues, trying to get things working, but once we got into the mode and we got everything going, it was picture perfect. So shout out to every single one of them: Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, and Benjamin Nelson. Also shout out to Sidewinder with Brian Johnson and Aaron Kralik. They were a great addition to our brain trust for the night, and we worked really well. So shout out to them for all the work. Shout out to the drivers. This was one of the most fun Dega races I've been a part of. We got to really race hard, I feel like, in that race. And then you also had some strategy coming to it with the pit stops. So congrats to the league. I'm really proud of everybody. It was definitely a lot better than our Daytona showing earlier in the season. So thank you to all the league drivers for that. Also, shout out to you guys up in the booth for all the work you do at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. It's a pleasure to have y'all calling our races. And Josh, Sam, Robert, all y'all do such an amazing job up in the booth. We can't thank y'all enough. And then last but not least, shout out to our amazing sponsors, Roasted Gems Coffee, Go to roastedgems.com, use code WSSR, get you a discount with the best coffee you can buy online there. Great title sponsor we've had for multiple seasons now. And also TrophySmack.com, our championship provider of our trophy. What a great products they have. Go check them out, TrophySmack.com, and see what they got in tail for you there.
Well, that is going to be your third place finisher, the 32 of Zach Hall. Congratulations on third, and good luck heading into Auto Club next week.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that's going to be your top 3 spotlight driver. Well, I didn't have to move too far back. 4th place. We're going to send it over to the 17 and get the thoughts of Chris Stitz, who had a very different point of view of the end of the race. Chris, it's Sam and Josh up in the booth. Congratulations on 4th, being one of the biggest movers up 24 spots from the beginning of the race where you qualified to where you finished. How are you feeling after your performance that you just had here tonight?
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm feeling great after this one. I actually really needed this top 5. I haven't had a top 5 in this series yet, so this is kind of the icebreaker for that. So hopefully more of those in the future. But it was a lot of fun out there. A lot of good moves being made, a lot of slicing and dicing and just going to the front and keeping it up there was the main goal all day, and we did it. So
Yeah, Chris, congrats on a really strong finish tonight, man. Walk us through a little bit of your mindset coming in here, and just kind of racing some of the playoff guys, and not wanting to necessarily be the cause of something, but also you're out here racing for yourself as well. Like, talk a little bit about just kind of the balance you had to do tonight, and at some point we saw you get up there with Ken and Christopher, and you guys were looking really fast.
yeah, I really wanted to kind of focus on teammates Ken and even Brandon Colley, the 2 that we have in the playoffs, and just kind of keep them moving and forward. And I was able to get with them with I think like 30 to go, and from that point on, I just stuck with them through pit stops. And once we got out and trying to catch that lead pack, but unfortunately we got broken up from there on. And at the end of the day, it was just kind of go for the win at the end. I was hoping Wade could get it, but luckily Ken followed me right through that mess, and he got a top 5 out of it too.
That he did. Fell through it. I mean, Chris, an incredible run for yourself. I went back and looked. When you crossed the line to start the white flag, you were in 12th place, coming away in 4th. Pretty solid run for yourself. Like you said, it's been a while since you got a top 5, needing one in this series. How are you feeling about the rest of this, season, on how you're going to be trying to run next week at Auto Club?
For sure, I'm going to be, running my own race and still going out there trying to win, but definitely not going to try and get in anyone's way. These guys are really good, and I have a lot of respect for them, and I don't want to mess anyone's playoffs up because I'm trying to prove something that I don't need to prove.
Well, Chris, we certainly do know that you're a quick driver. We can't wait to see how you're going to perform for the rest of the playoffs. And good luck at Auto Club next week. Before we officially let you go, though, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, thank you guys. I got Frostfire on the car this week, and thank you to Cole Sacchetti and One to Go Graphics for making the scheme for me. Beautiful ride that I'll be running the rest of the season. And then shout out to my teammates at Storm Motorsports, Brandon Colley, Ken Campbell, and Christopher Wade. We all work very well together, and can't wait to have Cole back in the mix with all of us. But other than that, you guys up in the booth, thank you guys for everything you do, all the behind the scenes work, all the announcing. It's fantastic, and I love just going back and watching everything every single week.
Well, it's a pleasure when you give us great shows like tonight to cover. That is going to be the 17 machine of Chris Stitz. Congratulations on a top 5 finish, and good luck at Auto Club next week.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
You too, as that's going to finish out our interviews with our top 4 finishers. And once again, one of the closest finishes that we could ask for. From when I was watching it live, Josh, I called it like I thought Cody won it by a mile, but then rewatching it, realized I was wrong on that. It was much closer. It came down to what iRacing deemed as the winner, and it was Cody Reed at the end of the day. But Josh, I want your point of view. What were you thinking when you saw that live finish? Because I know I was calling it like I was going crazy.
Well, I was firstly very impressed that you called the winner and seemingly, no hesitation or anything, because when they came across the line there, I immediately just looked to my timing and scoring, and one software said one thing and iRacing said the other, so I had no idea. So I was pretty impressed with your call there to pick it out right out the bat. But man, what a fantastic finish. I mean, it was a really great race, Sam. I mean, we saw a couple big ones, but that's to be expected at Talladega, especially in a playoff race. But overall, I was very impressed with the racing. A lot of 3-wide racing. A couple mistakes here and there, but man, what an absolute amazing finish. You couldn't ask for a better one.
You couldn't have asked for it at all. As we take an unofficial look at the finish here, a wild finish for the drivers, and it's Cody Reed. Closer than our data could really tell you. It's not even 1,000ths of a second. It's even further than that. It was so close. We saw the replays. Cody Reed, Benjamin Nelson at the line, and iRacing deemed Cody Reed as the winner. Nelson will get second with Zach Hull in third. Chris Stitz finishes in fourth. Ken Campbell fifth. Joshua Kanata, a strong run for the 16 in sixth. Cedric Connor 7th. Nick Crawford 8th. Douglas Newbegin at one moment was lapped down, almost causing some calamity. Got the cautions that were necessary. Got the 7 back on the lead lap, and he'll finish with a top 10 finish. And another surprise top 10 finish. James Kaufman caught up in a couple of wrecks late, and he'll get that 10th place position.
Yeah, a couple really big rebounds by those guys right there, Sam. Just outside the top 10, just highlighting some playoff drivers. Christopher Norris finishing just outside the top 10 in P11. Then we jump down to P13 with Ryan Kelly. Solid finish, not quite as, maybe as much as he had hoped, but still a solid finish for him nonetheless. Larry Yingling a little bit further down the leaderboard now. Finished 16th, John Forbes 17th, and then this is the danger zone, Sam. Brian P. Johnson, we saw him running up front late in the top 5, finishes 18th. A little further back, Shane Tyrion, our regular season champion, finishes 20th tonight, Sam, and we saw him late out there trying to work that upper groove and being a threat to potentially win the race. Finishes all the way back in 20th after being caught up in that last wreck. Finishing 24th is Brian Noel in the 77 machine, also caught up in that last wreck. And then finally Brandon Collett, we saw his mishaps on pit road, ends up finishing P28 and is going to be indefinitely, he's got an uphill to climb next week going to Auto Club, Sam.
A major uphill climb. Another one of those drivers is John Forbes, and he's going to be having a major loss, finishing in 17th for the 11 machine. And you look at the drivers points-wise coming into tonight: Benjamin Nelson, Zach Hall, Ken Campbell. You could say, hey, great nights. We can take good nights like this, and it will help us move forward in points. But right on the cut line, it's Larry Yingling, who's going to have a 1-point advantage over Shane Terrian in 11th, just a 2-point advantage over John Forbes in 12th. And for Brian P. Johnson, he's going to be 13th in points. Brandon Colley 14th, Brian Noel 15th. And Josh, you got to report, Ross Tatum not showing up here tonight. The 21, he's going to be in a must-win scenario heading into next week.
Yeah, Ross Tatum on personal vacation right now, so taking a cruise. Unfortunately, could not bring the sim on the cruise ship. So, yeah, Ross Tatum is going to be in a must-win situation, and it's unfortunate because he's a strong competitor to the series, but in a way, it kind of simplifies things. Sam, just go out and win.
Yeah, go out, win, perform, and you will find yourself into the round of 10. What a way to start out the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. Cody Reed getting it done. A sneaky move at the end of the day to find himself into victory lane. And for the rest of the field, they got to reset. Be prepared. Auto Club, the next destination next week on Wednesday night. But for us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, this week is not over just yet, as you get another look at the finish line. It was an incredible one for themselves, but for here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we do have a broadcast tomorrow night. Stars and Stripes Gen 4 cars. You saw a great race here this evening. Tomorrow gets even better. Auto Club, it's going to be at Atlanta 2008 configuration for the Stars and Stripes series. We take the weekend off. We're back on Monday night for more playoff racing for the Truck series. Then on Tuesday, it's Xfinity cars for the full send racing series, and we're right back here next week. Auto Club, who moves on to the round of 10? Well, we know one thing's for sure, it was the thief of the night, Cody Reed, right at the end, crossing the line where it had to go down to the computers, the laser scans, and Josh, it was this close on Cody Reed winning.
Just an absolutely unbelievable finish, and I mean something that we need to talk about. Sam, he stole the spot, the thief of the night. Benjamin Nelson and Zach Hall seemingly battling for that ticket to be punched to the next round. Well, it was a good points nights for both of them, but neither of them are locked in with Cody Reed stealing that win.
Everyone that came into the playoffs still with a chance to move on to the next round and still with a chance to be bounced out of the playoffs. It's going to be a fun one next week. Can't wait for it. But for tonight, just as quickly as the race ended, we will be jumping out of here. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Joshua Altis, Robin Warrior Jr., everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us with one of the closest finishes in Freaky Fast Broadcasting's history. I mean, we thought Full Send had that easily capped off. Well, now we have another almost identical finish at the end. Whew, these finishes are getting wild at these super speedways this year. 2023 has been a good one. Cannot wait for our next broadcast tomorrow night. Full Send Racing Series, Gen 4 Cup cars, gonna be seeing how well can they hold on at the Slippin' and Slidin' 2008 configuration of Atlanta. You'll have to find out, as that will be our next Freaky Fast broadcast.